Have you asking, why am I here? And what is my purpose? The series streams exclusively on Angel Studios' platform, so the best way to see this new series is by joining the Angel Guild, a community of over 1 million members that have a vested voice in what series and films get greenlit by Angel. This means that A Week Away was voted on by members of the Guild to move forward. So becoming a Guild member is like being a member of the Television Academy, and you'll get all the perks from the comfort of your own home. So head on over to angel.com/RAV to join the Guild and watch A Week Away today.
Ahead on American Sunrise Early Edition, our expanding war on the drug cartels is looking like a two-front war now, as President Trump warns the president of Colombia to stop messing around. This weekend's No Kings rally may have seemed incoherent, but they did serve as a warning that Trump supporters better be ready to match that energy in next month's elections and the midterms next year. And now that the No Kings thing is over, can the Democrats get serious about reopening the government finally? Either way, it looks like this thing will be dragging on for a few more days at least. In the Middle East, after Hamas attacks Israeli troops, the IDF pounds targets in Gaza, but it does appear the ceasefire is generally still holding this morning. And it sounds like the plot of a heist movie. Brazen thieves break into the Louvre in broad daylight and speed off with irreplaceable jewels once belonging to Napoleon Bonaparte. But unlike the movies, this may not have a happy ending. American Sunrise Early Edition begins now.
Welcome to American Sunrise Early Edition. The show where faith, freedom, and the values that built this nation take center stage.
Your good deeds and bad deeds. That's how we're going to judge you.
Join host Jake Novak as he breaks down the stories that matter.
We will be letting the public know regularly what we have found.
American Sunrise Early Edition with your host, Jake Novak, starts now.
Hey, welcome to this Monday here on American Sunrise Early Edition. A lot of breaking news just in the last few hours. If you're watching this program because you're stuck waiting for a delayed flight because of the Amazon Web Services outage, you have my sympathies, although apparently that's getting better. A huge cloud services outage overnight for Amazon, affecting a lot of airlines and other companies. Again, seems to be getting better, but you might be delayed this morning. Also, President Trump had to enter Air Force One yesterday through the back stairs because they found a hunting perch of some kind and basically a sight line for a shot at him. They're still investigating this. So a lot to talk about this morning. Let's get into it, though. I think there's some general international and national stories that we really need to cover as well as we check on those developing stories as well. Joining us now is Daily Signal senior editor Tyler O'Neill. And Tyler, the No Kings protests. Look, I actually was in the city, New York City. I saw some of them. Some of it is a joke. A lot of them didn't really seem to know what they were doing or talking about, a lot of the protesters. But here's what isn't a joke. The hatred of President Trump from the folks on the left and from the Democratic Party in general is still strong enough that they can get a lot of people to show up. Now, a lot of them, it was funny. I was on a subway with some of them on the way. They weren't saying it people. It's like they were going to a job. So they're kind of like assigned to do it. But again, that's not a joke. And so they need to be considered by Republicans this year and next year in these elections coming up. Just hating on Trump is enough to get people to come out and show up. It's sad because I don't think these people actually understand what they're standing for. They didn't seem to be coherent. But Tyler, you know, the Republicans can't laugh this off completely.
Yeah, I think these protests were very large. What we've seen is the left is in almost a terrified mode at this point, because right now what's happening in Virginia with the Jay Jones texts and the way that that's drawing attention to the violence on the left, they're starting to really get scared about losing that race. And we saw them pull out none other than Barack Obama. They're really pulling out the stops, trying to get Abigail Spanberger across the finish line so they can eke out a win despite what's happening. And of course, we saw a lot of energy at those No Kings protests, but we also saw some really disturbing signs. One of my colleagues went and interviewed people at the protest in D.C., and one of the ladies that she interviewed expressed essentially joy that Charlie Kirk had been assassinated, comparing Charlie Kirk to Adolf Hitler, saying, I'm very glad that Hitler is dead. And this sort of rhetoric continues to come up over and over again from different parts of the left. Now, we're not hearing a lot of elected officials say that, but we did hear from Jay Jones, these horrible texts where he's defending political violence as a means of convincing those evil Republicans to no longer hold the positions that they hold. So we have to be careful here. We're not just seeing, most of the protesters over the weekend were peaceful and were expressing their opinions, but this is also part of the left's infrastructure pushing to get more people out. I mean, as I covered, the National Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers, the largest teachers unions in the country, were promoting these protests. And I heard claims that I have not yet been able to verify that these unions were funding the protests. And I find that very easy to believe, given how many leftist activist things the NEA and the AFT have funded. They're big funders of the campaign I described as the Woke-topus, which sent far left woke activist ideas into the Biden administration and policy performers, staff, to perform them in the federal government. So, what we're seeing, the left is standing in the wings. They're afraid recently of what's going to happen next month, but they're also, there is this growing hatred on the left. And I think it's really incumbent on the Democratic Party to call it out and to put daylight between them and people who would celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk.
Well, I think they're doing the opposite of that, Tyler. I think they're stoking it. I think that there are plenty of leaders in the Democratic Party who are just doing politics as usual. But when you talk, you give us the anecdote of someone who's comparing Charlie Kirk to Hitler and is happy that he was murdered. That's the impact. They're looking at this and saying these people are mentally ill. These people can be made to believe and to fear almost anything, and that's just too tempting. That's just too tempting for Randy Weingarten at the teachers union. It's just too tempting for Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Even though if they were smarter, they'd realize a group like that's that unhinged can turn on you in a second. And it's just amazing to me, but they're stoking those flames. And that is really, I agree with you, that is really the scary thing. I'm happy that I didn't expect any violence from these events over the weekend. That's because they weren't marching on an ICE facility or marching on the White House or something like that. But some of them could have easily been motivated to do that. That's the scary part. Well, we have foreign and domestic wars to talk about. This one is it's basically a mix. It's a foreign engagement, but it's also a domestic one because we have another front in our expanding drug war. President Trump calling out Gustavo Petro, the president of Colombia, calling him a drug dealer. Look, Colombia has been controlled by the drug cartels for a long time. So is Venezuela. So for a large part this is also true of Mexico. I have to say, though, this is something that talk about the Democrats and being unhinged. There are some Democrats who are pushing back against actions against these very sophisticated and weaponized drug cartels. That's not going to poll very well. The drugs they're pouring into this country are killing so many people. This is a winner issue for President Trump, but I don't care. Listen, he's not running again. I don't care about his popularity polls. This is a fantastic thing to get the flow of drugs at least slowed into this country.
Well, I think it's really important. This reminds me of Trump's law and order push overall, where we have these threats to American public safety and peace, and President Trump is finally doing something about them. And in the case of Colombia, this is a country that had been getting better, but they still have this big problem with these drug cartels and sending so many drugs to the United States. And it's recently gotten worse in the past year or so. So it's really important. I think what we're seeing President Trump doing, he's not declaring war on Colombia. He's saying, look, Petro, you need to get your ducks in a row and you need to act more against the cartels. And that's a hard thing for a Colombian president to do. But I think President Trump is using both a carrot and a stick here. He is saying, look, Petro, you better do this because we're the most powerful guy on the block. But he's also suggesting, I think he might be carrying a little bit of water for Petro to give Petro the slack to go after some of these drug cartels. And then when they respond negatively to him, he can say, look, the president of the United States is on my back about this. If you have concerns about that, it's not just me enforcing this, he's coming in too. So I think President Trump may be doing Petro a favor to some degree here, even though it looks like he's just going against him.
Yeah, and let me preemptively warn all the uber libertarians out there about this. Read the Monroe Doctrine, okay? This is not just a case of the United States meddling in a foreign country. The foreign countries who are the enemies of the United States have been doing this already in Colombia, in Venezuela, in Mexico, China, and also Iran via Hezbollah, have been using those countries to not only basically help them create other avenues in their drug cartel and their drug industries, illegal industries, but also using them to house terrorists. This is a absolute violation of the Monroe Doctrine in an incredibly insidious and awful way. And the United States pushing back on it is not the breaking of some kind of libertarian prime directive. Finally, Tyler, I made a big deal last week about Mark Benioff, the Salesforce CEO. He is the most sanctimonious big tech CEO I've ever had to deal with in all the years I was doing financial news. It was so frustrating dealing with him. He's just always had some high horse to ride in on. And so when he said a couple of weeks ago that he thought President Trump was right and that they needed to bring in National Guard troops to San Francisco, I thought, well, maybe he's learning. Of course, now he's backtracking. He's apologizing. He got the cold shoulder. People turned their backs on him in San Francisco after all the things that he did, and now he's backtracking. There is just no common sense on the other side of the aisle. I mean, you can't say I want San Francisco to be safe for people to walk down the street without being canceled by the media elites and the big tech elites. I mean, there is no common sense.
Yeah, this is more of the tolerant left in action. I mean, what we saw from Benioff here is the acknowledgement that they need more police, they need more public safety. And this is something Americans feel across the country. But when he says it, he immediately faces backlash, and then now he's backtracking. But this is a very small, simple step that he's saying, look, we needed more police. Maybe if the National Guard can bring some more peace and public safety to this city, that would be positive for the city. And he's saying that after we saw positive results in Washington, D.C. and in other cities. And President Trump is bringing in the National Guard to protect federal law enforcement who are facing increased attacks across the country. So this is something that's very much in the National Guard's purview. And sure, National Guard are not meant to act like police. And to that degree, Benioff wasn't exactly 100% correct. But let's look at the big picture here. This is a guy who is starting to see something positive out of this administration, and his allies on the left can't stomach that. And so they had to go after him for it. And now, of course, he's decided rather than taking a stand for what he at least believed at the time, he has to pull himself back.
Yeah, it's a chilling effect for anyone else who's going to have the guts to say anything with common sense. Tyler O'Neill, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great week.
Yeah, you too.
Coming up, more on that brazen jewel heist in Paris. And there's some bad news about how this may end up that really has me beside myself, folks. I'll explain why. And later, the banking scare that hit Wall Street again last week should serve as a lesson to people like Letitia James and everyone who thinks she shouldn't be prosecuted. I'll explain. American Sunrise Early Edition will be right back.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with your Real America's Voice, Real Minute. At Camp Owigaway, a Christian summer camp filled with adventure and camaraderie, kids come together for experiences that challenge and inspire them. Between canoe races, campfires, and heartfelt conversations, they form deep friendships and uncover new layers of their faith and identity. Each day at camp offers opportunities for personal growth, connection, and unforgettable memories.
Come on, pick it up. Let's go. I can't be the only one pumped to go read a Bible in the middle of the woods for a week.
If you need a hand with packing, we're here to help.
Thank God.
A troubled teenager takes a leap of faith to attend Camp Owigaway in this series directed by Alan Powell, and a cast that stars Antonio Cipriano, David Koechner, Lee Ellen Baker, and Carlos Penavega. It has music from the same producers who created High School Musical and Camp Rock.
3, 2, 1.
Why am I here? It's the question we're all asking ourselves.
This action-packed fun series will have you asking, why am I here? And what is my purpose? The series streams exclusively on Angel Studios' platform, so the best way to see this new series is by joining the Angel Guild, a community of over 1 million members that have a vested voice in what series and films get greenlit by Angel. This means that Owigaway was voted on by members of the Guild to move forward. So becoming a Guild member is like being a member of the Television Academy, and you'll get all the perks from the comfort of your own home. So head on over to angel.com/RAV to join the Guild and watch Owigaway today.
It's a dark morning there in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition. It's a Monday. I know that. It's a little rough sometimes on a Monday. Special welcome to those of you on the Getter and the Rumble platforms, X, Substack. There are a lot of places to watch this program and to also comment, and I like to read your comments. Here's how it went down at the Louvre. The thieves used a truck with a ladder, like a fire truck, pulled up next to the very famous museum. I think it's like the #1 tourist attraction in the world. I just did a story here on this program over the summer about how they're trying to keep the Louvre open 24/7 so they can accommodate all the visitors. Well, they don't want to accommodate these visitors. Look at this. They pulled up next to the museum with the retractable ladder, broke into a window, cut open display cases, and stole, among other things, some of the crown jewels that belonged to the Emperor Napoleon, Empress Josephine, and we're bringing in Emily Finn right now. Listen, Emily, the first thing we have to do is establish your alibi in this whole thing, because you're always traveling. You're always traveling over to Europe for short, coming back and forth. I mean, can you tell me where you were yesterday morning?
Right here in West Palm Beach, Jake. I promise you, I do have an alibi that checks out on this one. I was not in Paris, part of this heist, but man, this is really hard to believe. I mean, like you said, this is one of the top tourist attractions in the world, and I think it's a reflection of Paris and of the crime that's going on in that city. It's awful to see.
Well, I have something even more awful to say, all joking aside, and I'm checking to see your earrings this morning. See, okay. But anyway, but all kidding aside,
these came from the museum. Oops.
And not from the gift shop. Look, all kidding aside, the reason why I want to make a little bit of laughter at this is because I'm actually very, very upset. I'm kind of a big Napoleon history buff. One of the few people who's actually quite a fan of a lot of the things he did. I could do a whole program about that. Maybe I will one day. But a number of experts have been quoted, experts in criminology, experts in this kind of thing, and they're saying that there's a really good chance that the thieves will actually just melt down the jewelry and sell it for the raw price on the markets. Are you kidding me?
I know.
They're going to destroy this history. I'll never be able to see these things. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it is just things. I get it, but that would be such a major crime. They've got to find these jewels before someone does this, but they may be running out of time already.
Yeah, Jake, I assure you, I was not part of this heist, but I will join the search to track down where these jewels are, because I agree with you. You know how much I love to travel, and seeing history and seeing, things that have significant value like this is just, it's a really beautiful thing. And so other people should be able to experience this and be able to go back to the museum and see all the things that were stolen. So I hope that this is able to get tracked down and replaced.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything political necessarily connected to this, although it's possible. You never know. Especially with the massive illegal migration. Well, actually, they made it legal in Europe, so who knows? But this is the same feeling I had when the Taliban, about 20 years ago, the Taliban blew up some ancient idols that were basically carved on the side of a mountain in Afghanistan. They just blew them up. No one will be able to see those things again because they weren't to their guy. It was just, again, this is a similar thing. I really hope they find these jewels. And I'm glad that for America and the FBI and for Interpol, we have cleared Emily Finn of this crime. You can now scratch her off. You can focus on better suspects right now. Look, we've helped the whole process, Emily. So
that is so funny. I'm joining the search, Jake.
Okay. All right. I'm going to deputize you. All right, Emily Finn, thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the 8 to 10 a.m. hours on American Sunrise. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
All right. Now I want to talk about buying and not stealing gold. When you do that, when you buy gold, you're going to get free silver. That's right. For every $5,000 purchased from Birch Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they will send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. I'm holding it up right now. This is the coin. Gold is up over 40% since the beginning of this year, and Birch Gold can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Plus, they'll send you free silver honoring our veterans on qualifying purchases. And if you're current or former military, Birch Gold has a special offer for just you. They are waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, many of which are my listeners and viewers, I encourage you to diversify your savings into gold. Text America to the number 989898 for a free info kit and to claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchases before the end of the month. Again, America to 989898. Do it today. And again, I have the silver coin right here. This is pretty nice, very heavy. Really nice piece of silver here. All right, coming up, do you remember the Dateline NBC side impact truck story hoax? Well, there was one person who made sure NBC got nailed for its phony and deceptive journalism. And I'll have some news about that when American Sunrise Early Edition comes right back.
It's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some Rav fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop Rav, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the Real America's Voice family.
God bless Real America's Voice.
So don't wait. Scan the QR code right now or visit realamericasvoice.launchcart.store to shop today.
Thank you, Real America's Voice, for doing true journalism.
Stand tall, be bold, be proud. Represent your voice with Real America's Voice.
It's good to have a real news network out there, so I'm a big fan.
Use code RAVSWAG10 for 10% off.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rav has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rav. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rav.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting
the Statue of Liberty selfie shot. Just imagine the Statue of Liberty has a phone there instead of the torch in her arm. I love this shot. A little sunnier this morning. No, a couple of weeks ago we did this and there was a bird that was photobombing it. It was so funny. It's an amazing shot. Let's take a look at where we're going to open this morning on Wall Street. And it looks like modestly higher on just about on the indices. Nothing more than 0.33%, and that's for the NASDAQ. Gold continues its march higher, 1.3%. It was down a little bit on Friday, down for the first time in days, but still, look at that, $42.70 per ounce. And crude oil, no, that's not a mirage, 56. We're at a 56 handle now per barrel on crude oil. We are really, really falling. And if you don't already have sub $3 a gallon gas in your town, I hope you get it soon. I know if you live in California or some other parts of the country, you're not going to get that. Now let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been struggling, and it's still there, 110 now. It was at 111 last time we checked on Friday. Now it's at 110, but it's gaining because it had a bad weekend. It was well below 110 for a while there. As you can see, up almost $2,000 this morning. All right, now, I talked to you last week about that regional bank scare that hit Wall Street. The first happened in 2023, and we had several days of losses. Yes, last week, just one day of losses on Thursday. Most of it was centered around Zions Bank when it announced that it had $60 million worth of loans that are probably never going to get paid back. A pretty big number for a bank that size. But now we know a little bit more about those bad loans. This wasn't just a case of people who took out loans, then they lost their job or they had a medical emergency. A lot of these bad loans were gamed from the start by the borrowers. People who were very sophisticated knew where the bank's vulnerabilities were, knew where they could lie about their collateral, and that's really the bulk of those bad loans. Are you listening, Letitia James and her supporters? People who know how to game the system, like her, several mortgages with fraudulent data, fraudulent designations for tax purposes, et cetera, et cetera. When those people end up having a financial problem, or if they have just been gaming it from the beginning, the banks get dinged. So if you're one of those people who thinks like, oh, they shouldn't go after her, this is a big problem in the country. This is not just a small crime. This is going on, and it could really hurt your 401k because it did on Thursday. I can tell you that right now. So something to remember about this banking crisis and the people who manipulate and game the system with loans. We now know, speaking of mortgages, we now know, again, the best and worst months to buy or sell a home in America. Last year's data is now finally finalized. It takes a long time for people to get through all these numbers. And again, this is probably not going to surprise you. January is the best month to buy a home. That's when prices for sold homes are significantly less than they are at other parts of the year, about $20,000 less on average. So January, if you're buying, is when you want to buy. May is when you want to sell if you're selling. That's when the prices are the highest. Of course, your results may vary. These things can change. But January, if you're interested in bargains, is when you want to do it. If you have kids and you're okay with either pulling them out of school or maybe finding another place, that's really where you end up getting a nice bargain. May is when everyone wants to start thinking about the next school year. That's if you have a family. If you don't have kids, you have a lot more freedom. So check out January if you're a buyer. There used to be an old vaudeville song. Believe me, I'm not old enough to remember vaudeville, but I know about this. And the song was called Secondhand Rose. It was about a woman who seemed to be fancy, but she admitted everything that she owned was basically secondhand. She bought it at a thrift shop, stuff like that. Well, now the luxury sector in America and all over the world can actually sing a song called Secondhand Woes. You knew this was going to happen. With all the apps and websites out there, eventually there would be a very robust secondhand luxury market out there. And for the big luxury companies, like the Rolex watch folks, Coach bags, Chanel bags, all those kind of stuff, very high-end perfume, they have been competing against themselves now more than anyone else for the last couple of years or so, because there are some really great websites to find some of these luxury items secondhand. And so this is a big hit to the big luxury brands. This is kind of funny for me. Look, if you're going to charge me a massive amount of money for a watch, you better be ready for someone to undercut you by selling it 1 or 2 years used. That's the way it goes, folks, and the internet's making it easier. All right, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. This is Moving America, sponsored by Artillery Tea Company, artilleryteaco.com. Use promo code LIBERTY for 20% off your order. Artillery tea is all natural, whole leaf. The tea bags are chemical free, and each tea bag can be used twice. Artillery Tea Company is family and veteran owned and operated, and a portion of your purchase goes to help veteran and first responder charities. ArtilleryTeaCo.com, promo code LIBERTY for 20% off your order. Hey everybody, that aluminum plant fire in Oswego, New York, late last month or early this month, I think it was just like the 1st of October. It's now not just a problem for Ford. I told you a couple of times over the last few weeks how Ford first, they think it's going to cost them $1 billion. Now they've had to halt production on 5 of their models. That's going to end up costing them more than $1 billion, I can tell you that right now. Well, now, of course, it's spreading because these companies all use a lot of the same suppliers. So it has now spread to Jeep. And Jeep is now holding up production on the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer in their Warren, Michigan plant. This is very, very disturbing. And I have to think that the folks who, 20, 15 years ago, who warned Detroit not to rely too much on aluminum, they didn't believe that aluminum was as safe in an impact and in a crash, they must be laughing about this, telling them, hey, if you had only stuck with good old steel and not moved so much to aluminum, you wouldn't be having this problem. We'll see how quickly these companies can get back going, but this is yet another supply chain disaster for these companies right now. It's going to spread to more. We know it's Ford, now we know it's Jeep. I can't imagine it's going to end there. But good luck to the folks in upstate New York trying to get that factory back going. Hey, good news, however. There is some good news, however, for Detroit. President Trump on Friday, you may have missed this, he signed a new order to help ease the tariff pain for American automakers. Now, a lot of American automakers who assemble their cars, make their cars here, still rely on a number of foreign parts. And those foreign parts were getting tariffed and costing Detroit automakers a lot of money. So what President Trump is doing right now, he's not rescinding the tariffs. He's not making any special cases for them tariff-wise. But he's allowing them to get a tax credit depending on their costs based on those foreign imported parts that they're using for a mostly U.S. assembled and mostly a U.S.-made car. So that's what happened on Friday. That was really good news for the automakers. They're dealing with some bad news at the same time, but it's not all bad thanks to that order signed by President Trump. Okay, it's not confirmed yet, but there are more reports out this morning that just about the cheapest car you can buy in America, the Nissan Versa, will not be back in 2026. Now, the 2025 model, which was just recently introduced, there you see it, it starts at just $18,330. This is it's a very small car. I was just talking about safety and impacts. That car would make me nervous. I wouldn't put my daughter in one of those cars. But hey, if you live in a city and you're just doing 20-mile-an-hour driving, maybe it makes sense. I guess it does. You get all the good parking spaces that I can't fit into, so good for you. But the Nissan Versa looks like this will be the last year that they make it, or at least sell it here in the United States. I want to tell you about somebody named Harry Pierce right now. He was a really great lawyer, former vice chairman of General Motors. First, he was outside counsel for them, and he was such a good lawyer for them, they hired him and made him the vice chairman of General Motors. Here's what he's most famous for. You might remember this story from 1992 when Dateline NBC, which was a brand new program at the time, trying to compete with 60 Minutes in 2020, did a big expose about how because GM trucks had their fuel tanks on the side of those vehicles, they were dangerous with side impacts, and they had all this incredible video of cars just crashing into the side of these trucks and then bursting into massive flames. Well, Harry Pierce looked at that and he smelled a rat, and he was right. It turned out that Dateline had rigged those stories, rigged those videos. They had put extra explosive material all around the cars and the trucks. It's amazing that Dateline NBC wasn't pulled off the air immediately. They somehow survived it. They ended up having to pay a big price for this, but they kept going. Anyway, Harry Pierce was the guy who exposed it, worked very hard to do so. He passed away at the age of 83 over the weekend, but he is a legend in Detroit for making sure that news organizations like the mainstream media don't get away with this stuff anymore. And he's actually had a pretty big impact. They've kind of stopped with this. I haven't seen that kind of level of fraudulent video in a long time. I guess they just do it for their political commentary. They made up for it. That's where they put all their fraud. But anyway, Harry Pierce, a big hero for Detroit and for Chevy trucks. Okay, coming up, some news on how the people who attacked an ICE facility in Texas earlier this year are going to be prosecuted. And they will be prosecuted. American Sunrise Early Edition. We'll be right back.
Patriots, it's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some Rav fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop Rav, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the Real America's Voice family.
God bless Real America's Voice.
So don't wait. Scan the QR code right now or visit realamericasvoice.launchcart.store to shop today.
Thank you, Real America's Voice, for doing true journalism.
Stand tall, be bold, be proud. Represent your voice with Real America's Voice.
It's good to have a real news network out there, so I'm a big fan.
Use code RAVSWAG10 for 10% off.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
Everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rav has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rav. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in, be counted, be heard. Together, we are Rav.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting.
Welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition. President Trump is now expanding our drug war to another country, or at least threatening to. He's warning Colombia's president that they need to get serious. This weekend's No Kings rallies may have seemed incoherent, but they do serve as a warning that Trump supporters better be ready to match that energy in next month's elections and the midterms next year. And now that the No Kings thing is done, can the Democrats get serious about reopening the government, please? Either way, it looks like this will be dragging on for a few more days at least. And in the Middle East, after Hamas attacks Israeli troops, the IDF pounds targets in Gaza. But it does look like that's all over with now, and the ceasefire is generally still holding. American Sunrise Early Edition starts now. Welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition. I'm Jake Novak. It's a Monday, and I am sorry that I didn't get you to start your week in a slow, calm, soft, gentle way. We've got a lot of things going on. We've got drug wars. We have massive rallies. We've got all kinds of stuff. Let's get some help getting through it. That's the best I can offer you, explaining it and also getting some expert opinions. Joining us now from the Lawfare Project is Gerard Felitti. And Gerard, federal prosecutors, I want to talk about this because we talked about Antifa together. We've talked about these attacks on ICE. We also talked about the Charlie Kirk assassination. And now we're starting to see some movement in prosecutions. Federal prosecutors in Texas have, for the first time, filed federal charges against Antifa, terrorism charges. Now, this is in connection to that shooting attack. There's been so many of them, so I don't blame the viewers if you can't remember. But if you might remember, July 4th in Texas this year, the ICE facility in Prairie Land, Texas, was shot at. Gerard, this seems significant. We really might now get I don't know if you call it a national task force or a force or focus on going after Antifa and these people because they are very organized and the Democrats pretend they don't even exist, Gerard.
And that's really the tragedy of it. The Democrats are putting their heads in the sand, but this is why we are at the point where we are now. This is why we need the National Guard deployed on city streets. This is why the feds are so active in enforcement, because progressive mayors, progressive governors have allowed Antifa and groups like them to monopolize the conversation, commit all sorts of acts of violence without any consequences. These people should have been prosecuted at the local and state level years ago, but they never were. They escalated. They're committing terrorist attacks, and now we finally have the federal government going after them, which is the only way that we will get them to stop.
Yeah, and again, you made that point about the local. Not only our local police and local leaders not going after them. They seem to be cultivating and using them, realizing that they could be a tool. A group of people who are willing to get off of their phones and their laptops and go out on the streets and terrorize people. Instead of saying, hey, we need to stop this, their first thought seems to be, how can we use these people? And I mean, honestly, this is where the federal government has to come in and protect the local populations where their local leaders won't do it. Speaking of local leaders, Gerard, Zohran Mamdani seems like he is a shoo-in to become the next mayor of New York. There are a number of things that people can look at to see where he might go in the first few months, where he might do things that could really permanently damage the city. Some people, again, he's got some big ideas. Like, he's going to freeze the rent, and he's going to basically open all the doors of Rikers Island. That will take a while to do. There'll be some pushback. But are there some legal avenues that can be used to indemnify the city from what this guy might try to do to it if he follows, for example, the mayor of London and some of the other mayors of major cities who are also clearly Islamist sympathizers and scary people, frankly?
Well, I think this is the problem. This is where it's tough for the federal government because, on the one hand, the Trump administration probably does not want to interfere or appears interfering in a local election. But on the other hand, you have very legitimate concerns about Zohran Mamdani specifically. I mean, last Friday, he was photographed with an imam of a mosque who was linked to the 1993 terrorist bombing of the World Trade Center, the same mosque that has been putting out radical ideas. This isn't just about Marxist ideas. This is also the intersection with radical Islamism. So we really need to know who is funding Mamdani, who are these supporters who are coming out for him. That gives you a better indication of what direction he's going. But there will always be the prospect for legal challenges. When you have changes in an administration and someone new comes in, look at Donald Trump, look at any president, when they have executive orders, when they commit action, stakeholders, people who are affected by them usually come forward and assert constitutional challenges. So there are a lot that we will see in terms of defending our legal rights, but it's still very scary that this man is on the precipice of becoming the next mayor of America's Golden City.
Yeah, listen, Gerard, you're the lawyer and I'm not, and so it's not a risk for me to say what I'm going to say, so I'll ask you just as a question. Does it make sense to consider looking at Mamdani? We know that there's been at least $13,000 worth of campaign finance fraud in the campaign. We also know that he said enough things that are supportive enough of Hamas and some other terror groups and terrorist leaders that you could make the argument that he should be denaturalized and deported. Is it worth looking at that and thinking to ourselves, maybe this should happen and let his lawyers fight it out for years in the courts and everyone will go crazy about it, but maybe it's worth it to stop this guy from getting into office? What do you think about that? Again, you're the lawyer, I'm not, so I'm not taking a risk by saying it, but so I realize that when I ask you this question.
Well, it's not a risk to say that what you're suggesting is certainly within the realm of possibility, that the law expressly permits something like this, a denaturalization proceeding, an expulsion proceeding. And we certainly have the option of investigating his campaign finances, especially when you see that he's gotten at least $100,000 in CARE, which is an unindicted co-conspirator linked to Hamas in the Holy Land Foundation trial from years ago. So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and there are avenues here for the government to act. Ultimately, it's not so much a legal issue. There are lots of things that can be done. The question is political. Does the DOJ, does the government have the political capital and willingness to do it?
Yeah, and I mean, also, I think that there's, and I think I get this a lot from our viewers as well, and I understand where they're coming from. There's also another uphill battle here. If the people of New York are not willing to stand up and nominate a better candidate and vote against this guy, then how far should the federal government go, and how far should the Justice Department specifically go to save them from their own fate? I mean, again, it bothers me because there are plenty of people in New York who are working very hard to stop this guy, but not hard enough, or in this case, not enough of people joining in. It's one thing to save people from the violence of Antifa, from gunshots, from fire bombings, but as bad as this guy is going to be, I don't know if we can justify what what we're talking about here, because again, if the voters aren't going to stand up, why should the feds? You know what I mean, Gerard?
Well, if this is a person who is under the influence of or supports foreign terrorist organizations, then that's a different matter than electoral politics. That's a danger. That's a threat to our national security, and the government should address it. But in terms of electoral politics, as you said in the earlier segment, it's people need to get out the vote. And that's the problem in New York City. You have the Antifa types, all the No Kings protesters. Those are the Democratic base. All the people who turn out in cities across the country, those are the people who vote for Zohran Mamdani. And unless other Democrats like Andrew Cuomo or Republicans Republicans like Curtis Sliwa, and by the way, I don't know what he's still doing in this race because he has no chance of winning and is only serving as a spoiler to make sure Mamdani is elected. Until you get out the vote, people like Mamdani will continue winning. So you need to energize your voters. You need to get out there, because if you don't, then the Antifa types, the No Kings types, they are the ones who are also voting. So we need to mobilize people to vote.
Yeah, and we also need to change the primary process. You know, even Nate Silver's 538 website several years ago wrote a piece admitting that the way big cities do the primary process is absolutely vote rigging. Because the only people who can come out on a Tuesday, on a random Tuesday in the summer or other parts of the year, are the unions and their organized people who actually, not only do they get the day off to vote and to go help bring out the vote, but they get paid to do it by the union, and sometimes if they're municipal unions, by the taxpayers. And they talked about how that is absolutely vote rigging and voter suppression. Average, normal, ordinary people don't often have, it's not as easy for them to vote in primaries as you think. And this is an example of how the left suppresses the vote of the more moderate, or in the case of New York, just moderate, but also the right wing in some blue cities and red states. Finally, Gerard, you've written something new about the efforts by James Comey's lawyers to get his case dismissed. Can you tell us about that and where that's going?
Well, I think what we're going to see here is Comey's lawyers are making a play to dismiss the indictment as being politicized. They're asserting constitutional challenges to the indictment itself. They're also going to be making claims that the grand jury process was flawed and that he could not have been prosecuted because the U.S. attorney had not been actually appointed yet or had the legal backing to be able to get the indictment. So we're going to see a very aggressive move by Comey to dismiss the indictment. Whether or not it ultimately works, this is playing towards jury nullification. So essentially, he gets two bites at the apple. If he wins, the indictment gets dismissed, he's done. If he doesn't win the motions to dismiss, then he's poisoning the jury against the prosecutor to basically nullify any verdict that might come back against him.
Do they even need to bother with that in Northern Virginia? I mean, I'm so concerned that the jury there that they're going to seat is going to be a bunch of federal workers, the spouses of federal workers, people who won't even consider the facts of this case and will just think about this as an example of the Trump administration coming after the entrenched bureaucracy. I mean, I don't like the odds of a conviction in this case because of the jury pool. I can't believe they're not going to try to change the venue. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not as concerned about the jury pool. I think that, yes, it seems to be more biased to Northern Virginia and the D.C. suburbs in one direction, and that's in favor of Comey. But on the other hand, jurors usually do want to do the right thing. And if they have a clear and convincing evidence laid out for them, that they can come to the conclusion that, yes, Comey lied, and here is what he lied about, and here are the people involved in that lie. If the prosecutors can make that case, then it's very hard, even for a left-leaning jury, to dismiss that as mere politics, and he can be convicted. So I think jurors are smart people. They want to do the right thing, and if the case is laid out clearly, he could very well be convicted.
All right, Gerard Filitti from the Lawfare Project. I hope all you heard that. Smart lawyers never trash the jury pool beforehand. He was very smart there. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week, Gerard.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, coming up, we may have more evidence now that so many big cities have indeed been lying about their crime stats. Now, why does this matter? It matters for more than just winning or losing elections. This is actually a great crime against humanity, and I will explain why. David Brody's going to help me when American Sunrise Early Edition comes right back.
It's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some Rav fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop Rav, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the Real America's Voice family.
God bless Real America's Voice.
So don't wait. Scan the QR code right now or visit realamericasvoice.launchcart.store to shop today.
Thank you, Real America's Voice, for doing true journalism.
Stand tall, be bold, be proud. Represent your voice with Real America's Voice.
It's good to have a real news network out there, so I'm a big fan.
Use code RAVSWAG10 for 10% off.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
Everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rev. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in, be counted, be heard. Together, we are Rev.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting
It's a live look. That's not a live look. That's Jupiter, Florida. But that's the way I'm imagining it looks right now. It's so beautiful there. Welcome back to everyone to American Sunrise Early Edition, especially those of you who are up and commenting. A lot of commenters this morning on Getter and Rumble, also on X and Substack. Thank you so much. My friend and former co-worker, Charlie Gasparino, is at the New York Post, among other places. He has a new piece out about how the Department of Justice now has some solid evidence that, yes, indeed, as many of us had suspected, major cities across the country, blue cities, are lying about their crime statistics. Now, before you just write this off as politics as usual, a little bit of PR, a little bit of window dressing, I'm telling you right now that this is actually a crime against humanity, and I use that term advisedly. It's one thing to not crack down on crime, to try to come up with a bad solution that doesn't work, all that kind of stuff. We've seen plenty of that in American history. But to deny that it's happening in general, that's the real disenfranchisement. You know, all these people who say voter ID is disenfranchising people, which is a complete lie and a joke. This is disenfranchising the very lives of the people in the cities. And I bring in David Brody here. And David, you know, you also grew up in New York. I didn't grow up here. I got here around high school time, so a little bit. But, you know, the thing about New York is one of the things that changed in the 1980s, which is when I came to New York. I came to New York, you know, around high school time, 1981, was that crime became completely bipartisan. Fighting it became completely bipartisan. Before that, David, you had politicians in New York who basically said, this is not worth my work because the people in New York aren't responsible enough for me to actually try to save them. That was why they lied about the Kitty Genovese story and said no one tried to help her. Yes, they did. The truth is people did try to save her life, and the politicians in the New York Times wrote a lie about that story that still holds in America in a lot of people's minds. So, David, lying about this to me is really, it's really one of the most insidious government crimes against people that I can think of.
That's a great point. And not to mention it hurts Democrats politically because they're really not going after solving the problem. And, you know, they can do smoke and mirrors all they want, but it's not helping them at the ballot box. You know, I lived through New York in the 70s, Son of Sam, and this sordid Times Square and what that was like. And then I lived through the Giuliani years as well there in the city. And you know the difference. It's palpable. You feel it. So when voters are telling you, look, we don't feel safe, believe them. Don't believe the statistics that Democrats are feeding you. You know, but Democrats have a history of doing this, Jake. We know this. And let's be clear, Republicans and Democrats like to spin statistics all day long. But with the Democrats, I mean, it's really, really blatant. I mean, remember when Biden said he inherited inflation at 9%? What is he talking about? What did you talk? It was 1.4%. And the way they spun that is like, well, the White House at the time under Biden said, well, it was the factors, you know, COVID and other things that were leading to the 9%. Those are what we mean. The factor. Give me a break. That's spin. OK, he literally said, I inherited inflation at 9%. On immigration, they do the same thing. I mean, they go around. The Biden White House said they arrested more people. ICE arrested more people under the Biden administration than the Trump administration. They're peddling this line. What they fail to tell you you is that after the arrest, they went ahead and put them into the interior of the country. So it's this type of stuff that goes on and on. What about Planned Parenthood? I mean, that's a good example. I mean, liberals love to talk about Planned Parenthood. Remember, Planned Parenthood, the liberals say, is, it's about health services for women and mammograms. That's the key thing. They used to say mammograms all the time for Planned Parenthood in terms of what the liberals would say. And then Cecile Richards, the Planned Parenthood president at the time, admitted, no, we actually don't do mammograms. So look, I mean, this stuff goes on all day long. Those are just 3 examples in about less than 60 seconds, but we don't have much time to really go through the entire list, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like now, and I talked about this in the last segment also, that when the Democrats and people on the left see, people in power on the left, see crime and violence in a town, especially if it's from groups of people, whether it's illegal aliens or Antifa, their first response is, how can we use this? I mean, it's like Sauron, build me an army worthy of Mordor. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, I miss the times back in the 80s when the Democrats used to say, you know what, we'll actually be better at fighting crime if you give us a chance. And at this point, it doesn't matter necessarily if that was true or not, but they actually wanted to be portrayed as being tougher on crime. And that was something that they felt could help them win elections. Now they're not even bothering, and that should be really frightening for everyone.
Well, it started, if you think about it, at least in the modern era, with Obama, when he started to embrace far-left principles. He positioned himself as a moderate. That was a big old lie, right? It was rules for radicals. We know about what his history was, and he embraced it. He didn't do it as overtly as Biden. I mean, Biden literally, that was part 2 of this. Biden literally made a choice. I always call it a deal with the devil. He said, look, the only way I'm going to get elected is I've got to embrace the far left of my party. And he did it. And the policies followed, and it exposed the Democrats for everything that they are today.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the show? Anyway, stick around for the next 2 hours on American Sunrise. American Sunrise Early Edition will be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. I'll be taking attendance. Okay, it's all right if you watch it on tape. But anyway, hope to see you tomorrow.
American Sunrise is a great way to start your morning. Join us Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We've got the news of the day and some compelling interviews that you don't want to miss. Here's what you missed from yesterday.
Congressman, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I want to get your take on the crime crackdown. How do you feel it's gone so far?
Well, Emily, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with all of you. Listen, I think the president has continued to just demonstrate the leadership that we expected that he was going to bring to this second term in the White House. And we've not been disappointed. And just one of the areas has been in the area of law and order. And what we've seen happen in Washington, D.C. Was amazing. What we've seen happening in Memphis, even right now, again, amazing.
What are your thoughts in terms of how long it's going to ultimately take to get the government open? And I think it is appropriate. Again, no disrespect, but I think it's an appropriate and a fair question to get to the root of the matter.
It's just like a ransom note and a hostage demands, and it's something we cannot tolerate. So we're continuing to hold firm. The Senate will continue to deal with this. They've got to vote for this and reopen the government. It's absolutely critical. And thank God President Trump is doing the things he's doing to try to maneuver to make sure that our troops got paid yesterday on the 15th of the month. And again, they're working hard to do these things, but we've got to get the government open. And Chuck Schumer's the one that can answer when.
One of the big headlines that I'm interested in is President Trump authorizing the CIA to do covert operations in Venezuela against the cartels. This is huge news, particularly in this day and age. What can you tell us about that? Put all of that into real perspective for us.
I was in the Oval Office, Terrance, when this came up. The reporter was actually standing right next to me to ask that question. And, he said for 30 years we've been trying to tackle the drug cartels. They've got faster boats than our Coast Guard. They can simply get away. So these airstrikes only make sense because he says you can't outrun a bullet, which you can't. They are taking a hands-on approach to tackling the drug cartels. And if you remember, once again, this was discussed on the campaign trail, targeting drug cartels with our military and taking them out in these spaces that are most vulnerable for them coming across.
Is President Trump going to heaven? He's been talking about this a lot lately, but lately he doesn't seem to think so. so. You know, I think there's room for everyone in the kingdom of heaven. I think everyone has a spot there.
The Bible has a verse in it. These things are written that you may know that you have life eternal. And I know Paula White has prayed with him and explained the gospel to him. I'm sure Franklin Graham is going to probably call him right after he heard that and set everything straight. So I'm hoping President Trump will be in heaven.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
I'm a J6er, and I spent 3 months in jail and about a year in prison.
I spent 4 years out of an 18-year sentence in prison.
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
In reality, J6ers are patriotic men and women, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers from all walks of life.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
And we need your help.
For just $10 or more, you're helping these patriots get mental, physical, and spiritual help.
Please scan the QR code or go to j6support.com to donate $10 or more to support these American patriots.
Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000, doubling your impact. Go now to j6support.com and donate today. Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rev. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in, be counted, be heard. Together, we are Rev.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
Ahead on American Sunrise, was another presidential assassination attempt thwarted? There was a hunting stand reportedly found near the Palm Beach International Airport with a clear sight line to where President Trump exits Air Force One. We're going to have the details this morning. Plus, is the ceasefire on the brink of collapse this morning? Israel accusing Hamas of breaking the tenuous peace deal, and they launched airstrikes into Gaza. We have expert analysis throughout the show. And later, no end in sight, the Schumer shutdown continues as leftists hold their No Kings protest over the weekend. Florida Congressman Randy Fine joining us in minutes to respond to that and a whole lot more. We're getting ready on a Monday morning edition of American Sunrise. We're starting right now. Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
we have breaking news to share with you.
Politics.
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
We've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrance.
And I'm Dr. Gina.
Good Monday morning to you, and thanks so much for starting the work week with us here on American Sunrise. I'm Terrance Bates, coming to you from our Denver newsroom. Let's bring in Emily Finn. She's in our West Palm studios, in for Dr. Gina this morning, and of course, the one, the only, the man of the hour, David Brody in Washington, D.C. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Terrance. Good morning, David.
Good morning. Did you guys like the energy there? Like our guys in the control room were like, come on, Terrance, bring the energy. And so I kind of had to summon some of it up on this Monday.
You definitely had your coffee this morning, Terrance. That was a lot of energy. Great way to start the show.
Yeah, I finished the cup. Oh, a little spilled out there. But I finished most of the cup. Hey, guys, look, there's a lot to talk about. David, you just teased that we're going to have Congressman Randy Fine of Florida on. I want to bring your attention to this, just the news headline. Hunting stand was sightlined to Trump's Air Force One exit area found at airport. The FBI is investigating. That airport, of course, is in Florida. The FBI is taking the lead on this particular investigation. And it's just another kind of concerning headline on this Monday morning in terms of security for the commander-in-chief. One would think that if there were something like this, it would have been found long before now, not just now. David.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is we're getting word that this hunting stand, which by the way can be a regular occurrence, obviously, hunting stands in the woods, if you will. I mean, that's kind of normal. But by the airport, I say by the airport, it was kind of near the grounds, by the grounds. So it wasn't like on the tarmac there, obviously. And so we're just trying to get a little bit more detail. And Kash Patel, Emily, should be giving us more, hopefully later today.
Yeah, waiting some more details on this. I mean, I think it's just scary that it was pointed directly where his plane usually is. Hard to justify that was for any other reason. I think we're going to have some more details about what happened with all of this.
Yeah, we definitely need some more information. And one would think, and not that this necessarily isn't the case, but one would think that there would be pretty occasional sweeps of the general area that something like this would have been found beforehand. Right. Of course, it could have just been put up before. It could have been some recent occurrence, but it's still something of concern. And so we'll continue to cover this story for you. We'll even talk to Congressman Fine about that momentarily. First, though, let's get a quick check of today's Bible verse. I get the honor. I'm excited about this. We want to take you to 1 John 1:7. It reads, "But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus Christ, his son, cleanses us from all sin." Amen. All right, we want to turn now from the Holy Book to the Holy Land. Israel is accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire agreement and, in response, launching new strikes. Israel says Hamas has carried out attacks beyond the line that Israel withdrew to. The Hamas attacks reportedly consisted of RPG and sniper fire. President Trump also responding to all of this, speaking on Hamas laying down their weapons. Here's some of what he had to say.
Do you believe they really will disarm?
Well, they promised they would. They said they would. It's down that they would. Now, they said they were gang members, et cetera, But these are very violent people. This is a very violent part of the world. Nobody's seen violence like this. If we have to, we'll disarm
the U.S.
Well, whether it's me or the U.S. or it's, a proxy, could be Israel with our backing. We won't have boots on the ground. There's no reason to.
Let's get some reaction to what you just heard. Florida Congressman Randy Fine, as we said earlier, joining us now. Congressman, welcome to the show. It is good to see you. Let's just get right down to business. We'll talk about the Florida situation momentarily, but I'd love to get your reaction to what you just heard from President Trump in terms of potentially disarming Hamas, be it the United States or, in his words, a proxy.
Well, look, that was part of the deal that President Trump miraculously got signed. And to me, the most important part of the deal happened. The 20 living hostages came home. Now, not surprisingly, Hamas does not intend to honor the deal. They've violated that line they agreed to multiple times. They've killed dozens and dozens of their own people, Palestinians. And then yesterday, they attacked and killed 2 IDF soldiers. So we'll have to see whether they actually are willing to disarm, but hopefully the same people that brought them to heel to release the hostages will be able to make that happen.
What's frustrating here is that Hamas is not going to disarm, obviously. Hamas is going to be the instigator in all of this. They don't want any of this to begin with. And it just makes me go back to 3 words: finish the job. And, it's hard when Israel has one hand tied behind its back and you've got all this world pressure. But the truth of the matter is they ain't ever going away. And I'm sorry, and I'm usually a pretty positive guy, but not in this situation. I think I think they've got to finish the job. And if they do finish the job, what does that look like exactly? And how can they carry that out when you've got basically so much of the world against them?
Well, your skepticism is justified. Look, Hamas has always said they want to reload, reboot, and then launch another October 7th. And their behavior since signing the deal shows that. in every way except that they released the living hostages. Now, the same people who put pressure on them to do that need to put pressure on them to finish the deal. Will they disarm? I don't know. But President Trump has made it clear they will be disarmed one way or another. And what everyone can feel good about is without the leverage of those living hostages, Israel has a much freer hand to do what they need to do. I think one thing that is important is I don't think this will require the United States to be sending boots on the ground. I think Israel has shown the ability to handle its own issues, but that's what they're going to do now.
Congressman, I do want to switch gears here for a moment with you and get your reaction to Majority Leader Thune's recent post on X. He writes, "I'm not sure how much clearer I can be, but let me give it a try. I'm willing to sit down with Democrats to discuss the growing unaffordability and unsustainability of Obamacare. It's a system they created, and I'm happy to hear them out. Heck, I'm even willing to give them a vote. Today, tomorrow, next week, you name it. But there's one condition: end the Schumer shutdown. I will not negotiate under hostage conditions, nor will I pay a ransom, period." Your reaction, Congressman?
Well, I think the problem is that Democrats' policies are so bad and so unpopular that they can't afford having it put before an open vote. They're demanding in the dead of night some sort of sneaky compromise be done that adds $1.5 trillion to the debt to give free health care to illegal immigrants. Now, if they want to stand up and have a debate about whether we should still be in a COVID pandemic or how unaffordable the Unaffordable Care Act is, let's have that debate. But you do that when the lights are on, the heat is on, the public can be involved, and the government is open. And so Leader Thune is 100% right. The Democrats need to come back to work, stop being ridiculous, and get the government open.
Congressman, I've got a multi-part question for you. The first part is, how long do you think this shutdown is ultimately going to continue? Now that we're through the whole No Kings protest, do you think Democrats are going to come to the table and hopefully come to their senses? That's the first part. The second part would involve you and your Republican colleagues. Is there conversation about potentially coming back to Washington, D.C. to start working on the actual appropriations bills or an appropriations plan, even in spite of the shutdown, so whenever it does end, you're at the table and already ready to go? Because at this point, it looks like you're going to be on a limited timeline if, in fact, the government does reopen before that November 21st deadline. I think November 21st is the date of the continuing resolution, if, in fact, it were ever to pass.
These are great questions. So in terms of how long I think this is going to go on, I don't know. I mean, look, we don't need the Democrats to come to their senses. We need 5 Democrats to come to their senses. We need 10% of the Democrats in the Senate to come to their senses and join all of the Republicans and vote to reopen the government. Hopefully that will happen soon. But their determination to give free health care to illegal immigrants is very intense because they know they can't do this in the light of day. And so I don't know. I mean, I will tell you that plans that I have had over the next 3 and 4 weeks have already been canceled. So unfortunately, a lot of people aren't optimistic, but I hope it happens soon. And the way that we fix that is people who are watching your show who live in states that have Democratic senators need to call those Democratic senators and tell them to reopen the government. As it relates to the second part of your question, the appropriations bill, I do believe that the appropriators led by Chairman Tom Cole are working behind the scenes to figure out how we get the final budget done. But your point is a good one. We only wanted 7 more weeks to have a little bit more time to finish the regular appropriations process, and the Democrats took that away. So I do think there is a challenge with how little time there will be left, even after they do the right thing, if they ever do the right thing.
Congressman, I'm curious on the shutdown, just one last follow-up. Who's going to blink first? You know, Republicans typically have blinked in the past, and I'm assuming Democrats are counting on that. But I've never seen, and you tell me, I've never seen such cohesion by the Republicans in something like this. Do you see any cracks in the armor whatsoever here?
I don't, and you have to think of it in the numbers. In order to reopen the government, 5 Democratic senators need to do the right thing. In order to adhere to their demands, all of the Republicans would have to fall over and say, we want free health care for illegal immigrants. That's never going to happen. So we need the Democrats to come to their senses, realize we are never going to agree to spend $200 billion on their fetish for illegal immigrants, and they need to go and reopen the government.
Congressman, 15, 20 seconds. Your thoughts on this hunting stand that was found near the airport where Air Force One lands there in Florida. Do you have any more information for us? What kind of heads up have you gotten?
I don't have any details other than what I've seen in the media. It is disconcerting that there could be something like that. The good news is it was discovered, and I have every confidence that Director Patel will get to the bottom of it. Who knows? Maybe it was just some hunting stand used for hunting. It is possible that it wasn't for any sort of nefarious purpose. But at this point, we just don't know. I'm glad they found it, and I'm glad they're looking into it.
And we'll leave it there. Congressman, thanks so much for your time on this Monday morning. We appreciate you being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Always a pleasure. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the top headlines from our RAV newsroom. That would be me right here. And then later, the Trump administration has conducted several strikes on Venezuelan boats reportedly carrying drugs. So what does this mean for Central America in general? We'll take a look. That's right after the break.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
I'm a J6er, and I spent 3 months in jail and about a year in prison.
I spent 4 years out of an 18-year sentence in prison.
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
In reality, J6ers are patriotic men and women, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers from all walks of life.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
And we need your help.
For just $10 or more, you're helping these patriots get mental, physical, and spiritual help.
Please scan the QR code or go to j6support.com to donate $10 or more to support these American patriots.
Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000, doubling your impact. Go now to j6support.com and donate today. Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
RAV has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with RAV. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in, be counted, be heard. Together, we are RAV.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
This news break is brought to you by AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens.
The sun is definitely rising over Dallas this morning after the Cowboys absolutely spanked the Commanders. Okay, I'm not going to say Commanders. They beat the Redskins. I don't care. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. I'm David Brody. Coming up, a fragile ceasefire still holding this morning. Aid is resuming into Gaza after a weekend that almost saw the ceasefire collapse. We're going to have the latest and talk with Doug Mastriano here in a moment. First, though, T. Bates standing by with the latest headlines from the Real America's Voice newsroom, sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
President Trump is starting this week by welcoming another world leader to the White House. Australia's Prime Minister expected in the Oval Office around 11 o'clock this morning. He'll meet with President Trump and participate in a bilateral meeting and lunch. In the meantime, the commander-in-chief also making headlines for blasting another head of state in a not-so-subtle nor diplomatic post on Truth Social. 47 writing, and here it is on your screen, President Gustavo Petro of Colombia is an illegal drug dealer, strongly encouraging the massive production of drugs in big and small fields all over Colombia. It has become the biggest business in Colombia by far, and Petro does nothing to stop it, despite large-scale payments and subsidies from the USA that are nothing more than a long-term ripoff of America. As of today, these payments or any other form of payment or subsidies will no longer be made to Colombia, the president writes. The purpose of this drug production is the sale of massive amounts of product into the United States, causing death, destruction, and havoc. Petro, a low-rated and very unpopular leader with a fresh mouth toward America, better close up these killing fields immediately, or the United States will close them up for him, and it won't be done nicely, the president writes. Meantime, President Trump also turning heads for commuting former Congressman George Santos' sentence and getting him released from prison. Santos is a free man this morning thanks to the 45th and 47th president. He served less than 90 days of a 7-year federal prison sentence for fraud and identity theft charges.
I wasn't even aware until I learned it off of the chyron of mainstream media inside of the prison myself. I had just been released from segregated isolation after 41 days for absolute no valid reason other than retaliatory warden.
So sorry,
I learned it from the TV.
The New York Republican pleaded guilty to lying to donors and stealing 11 people's identities in order to make donations to his campaign. While the president calls Santos a rogue, he goes on to write, quote, "At least Santos had the courage, conviction, and intelligence to always vote Republican." Well, folks, in case you happen to miss it, Hawaii's Mount Kilauea volcano erupts for the 35th time, but this time it spewed lava some 1,500 feet into the air, making the highest lava fountain recorded at the volcano to date. You see it happening here. This latest eruption lasted about 7.5 hours from Friday night into early Saturday morning. The U.S. Geological Survey is keeping an eye on Kilauea, which of course has been a very active volcano since it began erupting in December of last year. This is a pretty cool video to watch, though. Let's bring in meteorologist Tracy Anthony to offer some more perspective on what you're seeing here. Tracy, it is always good to see you. What can you add to all of this? This is really beautiful. Good morning.
Yeah, can you imagine seeing these two lava fountains for 7.5 hours? And like you said, record-breaking. Kilauea is one of the most active volcanoes on Earth. So lots of activity here, even over just the last year. So definitely a cool sight, and now breaking records. So we're still in this eruptive phase that could last, a few more months even. So we'll kind of see what Kilauea still has in store for us. We are also tracking the tropics. We do have an increased chance that this cluster of thunderstorms that's moving into the Caribbean Sea is likely to develop into our 13th named storm system of the season. If it is named over the next couple of days, it will be Melissa. So tracking that in the Caribbean Sea. And back home, we are talking about fire danger. It's been warm, it's been dry, and we're talking about gusty winds across the Central Plains. So fire danger. I'm going to stick around to start the week. That's what's going on, Terrance, across the country, and the big weather stories we're watching.
Thank you so much. We'll check back with you next hour.
Sounds good.
Up next, though, Israel and Hamas both strike each other. Yeah, the fighting continues, unfortunately. The fragile ceasefire between the two could be on the brink, and some would argue it already is. So how will the coming days look? We'll have some top analysis straight ahead. First, though, a quick look at this day in history. It was on this day in 2005 that Iraqi President Saddam Hussein went on trial for crimes against humanity. He was accused of possessing weapons of mass destruction. The Butcher of Baghdad, as he was named, was tried, convicted, and executed in 2006, bringing some stability to the region. More American Sunrise coming your way after this.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I go deep around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
My name is Kyle. I'm with Real America's Voice because we can chat with each other, the hosts, even management. We are the RAV family, and we're better together.
Hello, all you Ravagers. I'm Billy Howell, your old buddy Carefree Largo from the chat, and I'm thrilled to be part of the RAV family. When I want to be heard, I use my Real America's Voice.
The White House. There's a president inside that works 24/7. He does not work 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. I'm David Brody. All right, Israel launched new strikes into Gaza this weekend after officials claimed the terror group Hamas violated the ceasefire deal. They did, by the way. Spoiler alert. Israeli officials claim 2 soldiers were killed in Gaza yesterday. The IDF also says Hamas attacked Israeli forces in Rafah with grenades and sniper fire, which prompted Israel to launch strikes. Hamas reportedly fired on Israeli forces behind the line, where Israel withdrew to as part of the deal. So for more, let's bring in Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano. Doug, thanks for being here. And I got to tell you, I mean, you're a great guy, especially to have on with this from a military perspective. Thank you for your service. You've done decades in the military. This is a tough one for Israel because you got the whole world against you, and yet they need to finish the job. And I feel like they're being hamstrung here by certain conditions, and I don't know. I don't see this going well in terms of the ceasefire holding. I'm curious to get your take this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, David, and thank you for having me on. And I agree. Israel is in a hard way. They had occupied Gaza. They took it during a war many years ago, and gave it back as part of the peace deal. And this is how Hamas, thanks Israel by not only launching a vicious, awful attack on 7 October 2 years ago, but then they can't even hold the ceasefire for 72 hours without violating it. And we saw, and the world did nothing, as Hamas started executing a vendetta on people they accused of collaborating with Israel, but it was a vendetta, lining up men on the street and shooting them in the head. And the world did nothing. Where were the protesters? And so, Israel's in a bad way. Anti-Semitism is up 400% in the West and in America. And every time Israel gets a deal, they're on the raw end of it, it seems like. So it won't hold. Hamas, they don't have honor. They lie for a living. They are terrorists in charge of a territory. And it's going to go south pretty quick.
We do want to get your take on this headline from The Hill as well. It says Trump admin to repatriate survivors of drug boat strike to Ecuador, Colombia. Trump has launched several strikes on boats suspected of carrying drugs. How do you think the Trump administration is handling this?
I think it's about time we're actually doing something about this drug war that Venezuela and other countries are waging against America. Some of these are sponsored by China, especially with fentanyl, which they produce in China, and they're, wages sort of opium war. This is a flashback to the 1848 war that the Brits had against China, but now it's happening to us. In Pennsylvania alone, we had about 5,000 deaths last year to drug overdose, mostly from China, coming through Latin America. And so I am so heartened to see, as a military veteran of 30 years in the Army, retired Army colonel, I am heartened to see that we are using our national assets here to stop this drug trafficking and to take out these drug boats, and even in one case, a drug submarine coming in our country and dropping pills of death at our doorstep. There's going to be casualties. That's how it is. If you're on a drug boat, drug running into America, you're going to be a target. And this is good news.
Senator Mastriano, I'd like to take you back to the Israel-Hamas conflict, and I'd like to broaden the lens, if you will. Obviously, I think we all agree that this ceasefire is technically over since there has been firing between the two sides. So technically, there is no ceasefire anymore. But I think the bigger picture is the buy-in from other Arab and Muslim nations. That's part of the conversation that I think people are really overlooking. Put into perspective for us how important that buy-in from those other Arab nations, the other Muslim nations, ultimately will be to a broader peace for the Middle East, for the region, not just necessarily between Israel and Hamas.
Yeah, thank you, Terrance. And that's brilliantly said. The idea of having the Arab nations as part of this negotiation, this was the show changer. This changed everything here because some of these countries have been funneling money to Hamas. They've been supporting Hamas not just diplomatically but militarily. Looking the other way as Iran was running weapons into the countries, and to have these nations now aligning with America and boosting America's ideas of having a ceasefire in the country here. It was only made possible by having the Gulf nations, especially those in the Persian Gulf area, the Emirates, as part of this deal. It changes everything. And so although the ceasefire on the ground may fail, everything has changed diplomatically, that you have Saudi Arabia and many of the Emirates on board and standing side by side with America and Israel seeking peace. And so if we're going to have any progress in the region, it has to be through these countries. And Donald Trump has done it. Donald Trump has done a fantastic job negotiating peace. Whether or not the ceasefire, happens is moot. The release of the 20 surviving hostages changed everything. And I believe here we're going to see a different order in the Middle East thanks to Donald Trump's negotiations.
Yeah, that's a great point. And by the way, that ceasefire, is officially not happening based on the fact that Hamas actually broke the deal, not just with firing, and killing Israeli soldiers, but also not returning all of the dead hostages as well. That was part of the deal as well. Hey, Doug, let me ask you on the Israel situation, the MAGA portion of this. We've heard President Trump say, we, as in we'll disarm them. And then he was kind of pressed on that. And he said, well, probably Israel will do that. We're not going to put boots on the ground, but we're going to give them the support. But there's got to be some concern about getting embroiled in all of this. You've got the governor, what is it? He wants to be the president of, or the Global Board of Peace. You've got this international stabilization force that the United States is going to be involved in. We already have 200 troops in Israel to kind of help broker this phase two, if you will. How do you see this exactly? Because he's got to be careful here. We all trust Trump to do the right thing, but at the same time, this is dicey and it can go sideways real quick.
Yeah, we saw the last time. Actually, we're coming up on the anniversary, David, of the bombing of the Marine Corps barracks in 1983. I think it was 23 October 1983, where 241 Marine soldiers and sailors lost their lives in a terrorist bombing of a barracks holding our men in Lebanon. And then that same day, I think 58 were killed in an attack on the French embassy in Lebanon. And that was the international force deployed into Lebanon after Israel launches the war, sweeping through Palestinian Liberation Organization camps, waging war against them, in Lebanon into Beirut. It gets messy quickly. So if we put boots on the ground, it's going to be messy. I dealt with this in Afghanistan. I was deployed 3 times in Afghanistan. These people They will dress up as women, in burqas and have AK-47s underneath their clothes. They will hide behind women and children. They will compel children to wear suicide vests, and go out to a crowd. They don't play clean. They play dirty. They're terrorists. They're evil people. And if we put men and women on the ground, American soldiers on the ground, it's going to be tough. We're going to lose men and women. And I'll admonish the administration: do not put us underneath the State Department, as Reagan did in 1983. They had stupid rules of engagement where our Marines could not even have a clip in their weapon. So if we're going to do it, expect losses, expect there's going to be casualties on both sides. And I would say make sure our men and women have the rules of engagement to take out any target they deem as a threat preemptively, because it's going to be ugly. I hope we don't do it, because it's going to be a mess. Israel can't handle it, and they have very generous rules of engagement here. And if we do it, we're going to be committed for decades, not just a couple of years.
Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano, the great patriot. Thank you for being here, sir. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Senator Mush. I'm sorry. I want to call you Dougie Doug on the air. I'm sorry. I'm being respectful calling you Senator, but I want to call you Dougie Doug. We appreciate you being here, Senator.
Thank you.
All right. I'll call you Dougie Fresh. All right. Thank you, Dougie. Coming up, leftists held No Kings rallies across the country over the weekend. How did President Trump respond? Well, you can only imagine. We have a direct message from Trump to the protesters as American Sunrise continues.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
My name is Kyle. I'm with Real America's Voice because we can chat with each other, the host, even management. We are the RAV family, and we're better together.
Hello, all you Ravagers. I'm Billy Howell, your old buddy Carefree Largo from the chat, and I'm thrilled to be part of the RAV family. When I want to be heard, I use my Real America's Voice. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the home of cheesesteaks and soft pretzels. Our control room really wants me to rap. Last week, I don't know, I was inspired and I rapped. I don't think I'm going to do it. Plus, I can't think of any words that rhyme at the moment, so I'll just leave it alone and move on. Good morning to you and welcome back to American Sunrise, everyone. I'm Terrance Bates. We really appreciate you being here with us. It is now time for today's health news, which is sponsored by the Wellness Company. And under the microscope today is a new medical breakthrough that can reportedly create universal kidneys for organ transplants. Yeah, that's right. You heard it right. According to a new piece that's published in the journal Nature Medical Engineering, there could be a way to form organs from the original blood type into a universal one
that anyone can take into their body. There's reportedly a new perfusion device that scientists are working on to convert a kidney with the type A blood and make it type O blood. A transplant was done into a brain-dead patient who had family consent. On the third day, there was a mild immune system response, but much milder than originally expected. The implications of this breakthrough could be a medical game changer. We'll, of course, continue to monitor it as more research is done. In the meantime, a new administration in Washington, D.C. has brought a lot of positive changes when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. The reality is, however, that there is only so much the government can do, and that if you really want to keep America safe and keep yourself healthy, well, it starts in your very own home. That's where the Wellness Company comes in to help as well, though. You can see and hear from TWC doctors all the time here on this network, and you, of course, know that their products are the gold standard for keeping you and your family safe and healthy. The Wellness Company gives you the opportunity to make sure that you're prepared for whatever happens with their series of prescription medical kits. These kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks to assist you in the proper use of the medications inside. Additionally, the Wellness Company offers a variety of products from parasite cleanses to methylene blue to weight loss products. And all of this can help you stay healthy and live a much longer and more satisfying life. So make America healthy again. It starts at your home. Do your part and protect the health of you and your family. You can start by going to www.twc.health/RAV. Order today. That's twc.health/RAV. Use the promo code RAV to save 10%. All right, let's send things over to David. David, good morning.
Good morning, T. Bates. All right, so House Speaker Mike Johnson called the No Kings rallies over the weekend a political stunt by the Democrats. Take a look at this.
A collection of folks that I listed were certainly part of it. We congratulate them on a apparently violent free speech exercise. I was a First Amendment lawyer for 20 years. We defend that right. But the irony of the message is pretty clear for everyone. If President Trump was a king, the government would be open right now. If President Trump was a king, they would not have been able to engage in that free speech exercise out on the mall, by the way, which was open because President Trump hasn't closed it. In the last shutdown, 2013 era, President Obama closed the National Mall. It closed all the national parks, didn't allow people to engage in all this. So, I mean, they needed a stunt. They needed a show. Chuck Schumer needs cover right now. He's closed the government down because he needs political cover, and this was a part of it.
All right. Well, for more, let's bring in Republican strategist and fellow for the Independent Women's Forum. That would be Nicole Kipilov. Nicole, great to see you. So I was in Manhattan over the weekend. The wonderful timing. I wasn't at the No Kings rally. Don't worry. I wasn't like with them or anything. But here's some pictures that I took. I literally was taking my granddaughters to Aladdin at 42nd Street. I'm like, oh, great. We picked the 2 p.m. matinee right in the middle of this stuff. So my 6-year-old and 3-year-old granddaughters got to see MAGA equals treason signs. Try explaining that to a 3-year-old. And then, you know, some other signs there as well. I must tell you, the pumpkin is rotten. They were clever. I will say this. Look, I thought a couple of things when I was there. First of all, and I don't want to say good for them, but why not? Good for them. By the way, reveal your face on that one. And I say good for them because, you know what? Look, if they're not violent, and they weren't violent, then this is democracy in action. I'm okay with this. We are all okay with this because guess what? We're conservatives and we believe in freedom of speech. By the way, 8647 might have been too much, considering that would be basically a call to assassinate the president. But overall, this was very, very peaceful. So I'm okay with that. And I'm curious to get your take on it. I will say, though, that my concern is that these folks really not only don't have a clue, but the Democrat Party, if they're looking to get back in power, this is not the way because, quite frankly, these folks, the far left, they're the activists. They care about this stuff, but there's not enough of them in this country. But they are active. The problem is they don't have the numbers.
Well, thank God the protests were peaceful this time. But look, I think these protests are a very strong example of how the left's psychology works, because they project their own actions and feelings onto others. This is the hypocrisy of it, right? They call President Trump authoritarian while they've cheered on the weaponization and politicization of institutions to go after their political opponents. They've, doxed law enforcement, called for violence against them. They've censored pretty much any viewpoint they don't like. And that's the hypocrisy, because that's the actual tyranny here. The real authoritarianism is actually coming from these so-called quote unquote defenders of democracy. And the irony is that I don't know what they're protesting. You said it. President Trump's presidency has always been about returning power to the people. It's the opposite of what a king would do, what an authoritarian would do. From deregulation to border security to restoring free speech, everything the president does rebalances power away from unelected bureaucrats.
Yeah. Nicole, you've kind of touched on my next question. It seems to me, in the face of these No Kings rallies, the best thing for Republicans to do, top to bottom, is continue to move full steam ahead with their policies and with the agenda. In your mind, what's probably the most urgent thing Republicans need to focus on or need to continue to push in terms of agenda items?
Well, I think the president has accomplished, so much just in these last few months, from brokering now 8 peace deals to, securing our border. You had border crossings down by 99.99%. He's tackled the drug crisis, the fentanyl crisis in this country head on by targeting narco terrorists. So he's revived the economy. He's done so much, but I think we have to go full steam ahead, keep going with those deportations, keep reviving the economy, just keep going with the Ukraine and Russia negotiations. I think the president is actually close to securing peace there. So there's still so much to do, but the president has some time. And with the pace that he's going at, I think he's going to be continue to be incredibly successful by the time this term is up.
Nicole, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for your insight. This is a conversation we could probably have for the next 24 hours in terms of pushing it back against these radical leftists. But unfortunately, we don't have that kind of time. It is paid TV and we got to pay some commercials. Thanks so much, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nicole.
Always. All right, folks, coming up, the Pentagon is calling out Netflix for producing woke garbage like their new gay-themed military drama, Boots. The details are next here on American Sunrise. And we also leave you with President Trump's response to the No Kings rally. Here it is.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
My name is Kyle. I'm with Real America's Voice because we can chat with each other, the host, even management. We are the Rav family, and we're better together.
Hello, all you Ravagers. I'm Billy Howell, your old buddy Carefree Largo from the chat, and I'm thrilled to be part of the Rav family. When I want to be heard, I use my Real America's Voice.
Welcome back, folks. So what if your morning coffee could actually help you stay younger longer? Rejuvenate Coffee, more than a coffee. It's science-backed longevity fuel. It's infused with CAAKG. That's a compound naturally found in your body that's been studied, by the way, for its role in slowing aging, repairing cells, and boosting mitochondrial health. That means every cup is doing double duty, giving you clean, crash-free energy now while supporting your body at the cellular level. That's the key for the future. It's your daily ritual weaponized against aging. All right, go to 1775coffee.com/RAV, and that's what you do. You order Rejuvenate Coffee today. Fuel your body, protect your future, rejuvenate. All right, now that we're caffeinated, time to stay awake, not woke. And who is woke today? Well, if you ask the brass at the Pentagon, they're going to point the finger at Netflix. Netflix is airing a new show called Boots. It's about a young gay man and his experience in the Marines. It's based on the Pink Marine, Greg Cope White's story. Here's a part of the trailer.
What I see before me is a collection of ups, ghosts, and fat bodies.
I told you it was going to be rough. I thought that you meant like mud and some bug bites.
Some of you have never been tested, but I will push you until you break.
It's my twin brother. We used to be triplets. John details there. It's always hard for everybody. I didn't think it'd be so lonely here.
Some of you in this room will carry a lot of weight in your pack. We've all got something to carry.
Things will turn around. Just gotta show them.
Sometimes the clothes do not make the man. Get your feet up!
These aren't boys to you, they're numbers. They are people's sons. My son.
My mother told everyone I died so she could sell lipstick.
By the way, the Department of War has responded to this. Officials said the Trump administration will not compromise standards, unlike Netflix, who consistently produces woke garbage. We do want to know what you think. Let us know on YouTube, Rumble, Getter, hop on into the chat. Let your voice be heard. All right, coming up, the Catholic Church starting to see a surprising demographic filling its pews. Details as American Sunrise continues next.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents
A Kennedy Curse. That is the theme of Angel Studios' newest documentary, RFK Legacy. It comes from acclaimed filmmaker Oliver Stone, director of the hit movie JFK, and his son Sean Stone, in a profile of the Kennedy legacy that you've never seen before.
I want to ask you about your father's assassination.
Anybody who reads that report will understand that Sirhan could not have killed my father.
It's a dirty story.
It explores the Kennedy legacy as told through the eyes of Bobby Kennedy Jr., who reflects upon his life and memories, his time on Cape Cod, his uncle's assassination, his own father's assassination, and his early interest in nature and the environment.
This time you have a drug addiction. How does that play out?
I wanted to be working with nature.
He was appalled at what he saw. This is how he became the leading environmental lawyer in the United States.
There's no right to pollute. The polluter pays.
My views are constantly misrepresented.
This compelling documentary profiles our current Secretary of Health and Human Services and dives deep into why Bobby Kennedy is who he is, why he cares so much about health in this country, and how his family legacy continues even after family members pass on far too soon.
I don't know if there's a curse. We do what we're supposed to do. The outcome's in God's hands.
To see RFK Legacy, go to angel.com/Rav, join the Angel Guild, and watch today.
Patriots, it's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
God bless the USA. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
Rise. It is time now for our moment of faith, brought to us by Lee Greenwood and the God Bless the USA Bible. In focus today, the return of young people to church. The New York Post cites data showing that some Catholic dioceses are seeing 30 to 70% increase, and the main driver is young people. Some told the Post that the pandemic, the internet, and lax Protestant options are the main reasons that they chose the Catholic Church. For more, let's bring in actor and author Braden Sorbo. Thank you so much for being with us today. You know, I have to tell you, I just got back from Rome. I went to Mass at the Vatican, got to see Pope Leo. It was one of the coolest experiences. People from all around the world, thousands of people come to Mass there at the Vatican. And I think it's the unity and the tradition of the Catholic Church that has just been so attractive to young people. Braden, what do you think about that?
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, like you mentioned in the study that was sourced there, the lax alternatives, unfortunately, are a big driving factor for a lot of young people, myself included, in leaving Protestant churches. And, you know, we see lesbian bishops and pro-LGBTQ pastors at these churches going to ICE raids and, you know, obstructing federal officers from doing their jobs. And we look at the unity within the Catholic and Orthodox churches. We look at the tradition. I mean, 2,000 years of unbroken history and apostolic succession really gives you a sense of purpose, right? It's that driving factor in everybody else. All of these martyrs who came before me were unwavering and unwilling to renounce their faith. And so they were willing to die for it. Why am I so afraid to go up, stand out, and preach the gospel? And so a lot of young people, myself included, are feeling that call. They say, come home to Rome, if you will.
Yeah, that is awesome. Really, really well said there. You know, I'm wondering, what do you think is the driving factor? I mean, we just talked about, you know, the lax options and stuff, but what is going on in the world right now, politically, culturally, in society, that is driving young people to faith?
Well, it's this moral degradation that we have. Unfortunately, the millennials are just at the tail end of kind of this rebellious nature with the generations. The baby boomers were sort of the generation where the moral degradation started. You know, you had the removal of the Bible and the Ten Commandments in schools in 1962. And so everything that happened afterwards was essentially just the effect of the cause, which was removing Christ from what we taught people. When we removed, people always say, well, there's no religion in schools now, and separation of church and state is a good thing. There is a religion in the schools, and it's Darwinism. It is the idea that the strongest will survive and that the weakest will die off. And that is why when you teach children that life has no meaning, that they are not created for a greater purpose, that they're not loved by that creator who created them for a greater purpose, they then go out and do terrible things. It's why we see on the news school shootings. It's why we see these awful things taking place. And so a lot of young people are realizing, hold on, the world is full of lies. And I can try to be as good as I want, but the world, they persecuted and crucified a perfect man. The closest thing I can get to that is following the faith that he left behind, the morals that he set in place to bring me closer to him, because everything going on in the world is drawing me away from that. And there has to be a reason why. So I'm going to push back.
Really, really well said there, too, Braden. Really appreciate you joining us this morning. Before we let you go, what is your advice to young people? I mean, you seem so smart when it comes to faith and religion, and you just you really have a way with words about this. What is your advice to young people?
Every person in the world has a price. And if your price is not your life, then you can be bought. And so I tell young people, you need to set that price at your life. You need to be willing to go out and fight for the faith. This doesn't mean going out and being, you know, a mouthpiece with 10 million followers, but it can mean simply living a life that is glorifying edifying and honoring of the Lord. And so I'll give myself a promotional shout out if you want. Embrace Masculinity, Lifting Men Up in a World That Pushes Them Down is a great tool for young men and young women trying to navigate the cultural pitfalls of the West. And you can get it at sorbostudios.com.
I am going to buy that book for every man that I know. Braden Sorbo, thank you so much for being on the show this morning. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
We'll be back with the second hour of American Sunrise in just 2 minutes. Stick around.
Introducing the limited edition God Bless the USA Bible, inspired by Lee Greenwood's hit song and the most recognized patriotic anthem in America, God Bless the USA. The God Bless the USA large print leather-bound King James Bible also contains America's founding documents, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance, along with a handwritten chorus to Lee Greenwood's song, God Bless the USA. With its large print and slim design, this Bible invites you to explore God's Word anywhere, anytime. The God Bless the USA Bible makes the perfect gift and cherished family heirloom keepsake to pass on to future generations. Designed for an easy reading experience in the trusted King James Version translation, this large print Bible is perfect to take to church, Bible study, work, and for traveling. Order yours today at GodBlessTheUSABible.com.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents
A Kennedy Curse. That is the theme of Angel Studios' newest documentary, RFK Legacy. It comes from acclaimed filmmaker Oliver Stone, director of the hit movie JFK, and his son Sean Stone, in a profile of the Kennedy legacy that you've never seen before.
I want to ask you about your father's assassination.
Anybody who reads that report will understand that Sirhan could not have killed my father.
It's a dirty story.
It explores the Kennedy legacy as told through the eyes of Bobby Kennedy Jr., who reflects upon his life and memories, his time on Cape Cod, his uncle's assassination, his own father's assassination, and his early interest in nature and the environment.
This time you have a drug addiction. How does that play out?
I wanted to be working with nature.
He was appalled at what he saw. This is how he became the leading environmental lawyer in the United States.
There's no right to pollute. The polluter pays. My views are constantly misrepresented.
This compelling documentary profiles our current Secretary of Health and Human Services and dives deep into why Bobby Kennedy is who he is, why he cares so much about health in this country, and how his family legacy continues even after family members pass on far too soon.
I don't know if there's a curse. We do what we're supposed to do. The outcome's in God's hands.
To see RFK Legacy, go to angel.com/Rav, join the Angel Guild, and watch today.
Patriots, it's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
Coming up on the second hour of American Sunrise, President Trump a target yet again? A hunting stand with a sight line to President Trump's Air Force One exit area was found near the Palm Beach airport. The FBI investigating the situation. Is the president in any danger? We're going to have details straight ahead. Plus, a fragile ceasefire on the brink of collapse after Israel launches a wave of strikes in Gaza over the weekend because Hamas violated the Trump brokered deal. Get it right, mainstream media, liberal media. The details ahead. And former National Security Advisor John Bolton, not to be confused with Michael Bolton, pleading not guilty to all counts, including illicit transmission of national security details. Does the case hold water? Find out. Second hour of American Sunrise starting right now. Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
we have breaking news to share with you.
Politics.
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
We've got you covered.
this is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrance.
And I'm Dr. Gina.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second hour of American Sunrise. I'm David Brody, coming to you from D.C. Let's bring in T. Bates in our Denver newsroom. Emily Finn in West Palm today, filling in for Dr. Gina. Good morning to both of you. Emily, how were the No Kings rallies? I'm assuming you were there with all of your signs.
No, definitely not there. You know, Jake Novak earlier accused me of being in Paris at that heist at the museum, too. Everyone thinks I'm in different places than I actually am. But yeah, that was pretty wild to see those throughout the weekend there, David.
Mm-hmm.
You know, David, it's funny you brought up the No Kings rallies, but Emily, I'm with you. Like, I was really fascinated that there was a heist at the Louvre, that someone actually got into the Louvre and stole jewelry and that kind of thing. Like, that's stuff that movies are made of. I don't see that as being real life, but apparently it did happen. Who breaks into the Louvre
and by
and
the way,
gets away with it?
Can I just say something about that? I'm a little confused. What's the end game there? So you steal it, and then what? Hi, I've got Napoleon jewelry I'd like to sell you. I mean, that's not going to work. I mean, who's going to buy that? You'd be an accomplice to a crime. Am I missing something there? I mean, and if they're going to melt it down into something, you know, then why steal that? I don't know. I'm confused. I'm totally confused about it. But,
yeah, no, it's bizarre. I mean, it's for me, the fact that someone broke into the Louvre and got away with it, like, that's huge. But then to your point, David, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. What is the end game? Like, what do you ultimately get out of that?
Well,
other than
and normally you
bragging rights
steal
among
art.
criminals?
Yeah, normally you steal art. Sometimes, you know, countries steal art, say, hey, we want it back in our country. It's already in France. It's there. Napoleon, France.
Yeah.
So I don't get that either. Anyhow, I don't know.
It's bizarre. It's definitely bizarre. We'll continue to monitor it when they catch the guys, because I'm sure they're going to, or the people involved, we'll let you know about it. Another big headline we're following, President Trump starting this week by welcoming another world leader to the White House. Australia's Prime Minister expected in the Oval Office around 11 o'clock this morning. He'll meet with President Trump and participate in a bilateral meeting and a lunch. In the meantime, the commander-in-chief also making headlines for blasting another head of state in a not-so-subtle or diplomatic post on Truth Social. 47 writing, President Gustavo Petro of Colombia is an illegal drug dealer, strongly encouraging the massive production of drugs in big and small fields all over Colombia. It has become the biggest business in Colombia by far, and Petro does nothing to stop it despite large-scale payments and subsidies from the USA that are nothing more than a long-term ripoff of America. As of today, these payments or any other form of payment or subsidies will no longer be made to Colombia, he writes. The purpose of this drug production is the sale of massive amounts of product into the United States, causing death, destruction, and havoc. Petro, a low-rated and very unpopular leader with a fresh mouth towards America, better close up these killing fields immediately, or the United States will close them up for him, and it won't be done nicely. Period, as my kids would like to say. Meantime, President Trump also turning heads for commuting former Congressman George Santos' sentence and getting him released from prison. Santos is a free man this morning thanks to the 45th and 47th president. He served less than 90 days of a 7-year federal prison sentence for fraud and identity theft.
I wasn't even aware until I learned it off of the chyron of mainstream media inside of the prison myself. I had just been released from segregated isolation after 41 days for absolute no valid reason other than retaliatory warden.
So sorry,
I learned it from the TV.
The New York Republican pleaded guilty to lying to donors and stealing 11 people's identities to make donations to his campaign. While the president calls Santos a rogue, he also goes on to write, quote, "At least Santos had the courage, conviction, and intelligence to always vote Republican." All right, folks, well, in case you happen to miss it, come to your TV screen and check this out. Hawaii's Mount Kilauea volcano erupts for the 35th time, but this time spewing lava 1,500 feet into the air, making the highest lava fountain recorded at that volcano to date. This latest eruption lasted about 7.5 hours from Friday night into early Saturday morning. The U.S. Geological Survey is keeping an eye on Kilauea, which has been a very active volcano since it began erupting in December of last year. That's a quick check of your headlines. Now let's get a quick check of your forecast. Meteorologist Tracy Anthony joining us. Tracy, so obviously Kilauea is one big story, but also the tropics continuing to be very active.
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot that we're watching. And Terrance, there's a cluster of thunderstorms that are out by the Windward Islands, and they're going to be making their way into the Caribbean Sea. And as that cluster of thunderstorm activity moves into the Caribbean Sea, it's moving into warm ocean waters. We're talking sea surface temperatures up in the mid to upper 80s, 86, 87 degrees. And that is just going to allow that cluster of thunderstorms to start to organize, start to become the heat engine that becomes a tropical system. So we're going to be watching this very closely over the next couple of days. And from the Caribbean Sea, really the model's not agreeing where that system is going to be going. So we need a little more information once that cluster becomes a little more organized. Back here across the lower 48, though, mostly seasonable temperatures, but some fire danger across the Central Plains. That's after record heat. And, you know, Terrance, I know you're in Denver. You are under those fire weather outlooks today. So be mindful of that. I don't know if you're, doing any bonfires on a Monday.
Yeah, that's how I spend my Mondays, sparking bonfires and eating s'mores. Thanks so much, Tracy. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
All right, let's get you over to David. David, I don't know about you. Bonfires and s'mores on a Monday, that's the best way to start the day. Or start
it is.
the
I'm going to have to clearly cancel my bonfire plans now, so that's just unfortunate. All right, T-Bates, we're following the latest, by the way, as you know, because you've been on the show just like me the last hour. The latest on the discovery of that hunting stand pointed directly at Air Force One near the Palm Beach airport yesterday. FBI Director Kash Patel announced the FBI was investigating the incident. Details still coming in. Joining us now with reaction is RAV Chief White House correspondent Brian Glenn. Brian, what can you tell us about this? What's your spidey sense thinking this morning? Good morning.
Good morning to you, David. Well, Secret Service agents spotted this hunting stand Thursday night, right before President Trump's arrival that would happen on Friday. Now, according to the latest sources, they're still trying to figure out just how long that hunting stand has been there. Now, I did my research on deer season in Florida for this hunting stand. Palm County, or Palm Beach area, falls into Zone A, which doesn't start until November 22nd for guns. So the last time I checked, and I guess everyone at the studio could tell me, there are no deer running around the Palm Beach airport, but certainly concerning as to who put that up, what was their intention. Now, I read a report this morning that because of construction at the airport, that plane would have stopped somewhat near the direct line of sight where that hunting stand faced. So we'll actually see, maybe was there any coordination? Does someone know that plane was going to stop right there? And mind you, that Mar-a-Lago has been basically shut down, until this weekend for the most part. President Trump making his return to the club. So this was premeditated, no doubt. We'll just got to find out who's behind it.
Brian, yesterday morning, the Israeli military carried out a series of strikes on Hamas targets, saying the terror-aligned group violated the terms of President Trump's hard-won peace deal. How's the White House responding to this?
Yeah, this is not good. I know that President Trump, and I watched the special on 60 Minutes last night with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner talking about this peace agreement, talking about the trust that we were somewhat putting in Hamas to abide by this ceasefire. And of course, the Israeli forces pledging their commitment to it as well. But it doesn't surprise anybody that this has happened. And of course, now that the ADF had made it, a strike on Hamas and injuring, a few innocent Palestinians as well, but they have returned to go back to the ceasefire agreement. But do we expect anything other than this from Hamas? They can't be trusted. They need to be eradicated out of there. And I wish that this was the last time that we were talking about this, because sadly, this peace agreement that President Trump put together is on the brink of collapsing due to Hamas not abiding by it.
Hey, Brian, let's talk about the government shutdown. I hate to, but it is news, and so we've got to address it. Will this week be the charm? Obviously, last week there was a 10th vote that failed to reopen the government. Now that we're through the No Kings rally, hopefully cooler heads will prevail. What are your sources telling you there on Capitol Hill about the potential of moving forward and getting the government reopened?
I don't think it's going to be reopened anytime soon. Let me explain why. If you look at the overall, I would say, success of the No Kings rally, they did have a sizable crowds across the United States. Their message to the Democrats weren't to open up the government and let's have a dialogue about policy. Let's get this government back open to help the American people. It was just an anti-Trump rally. So in the eyes of Democrats, they've got the support of the American people for this shutdown. So I don't see any urgency from the Democrats to actually do anything. They have nothing to lose by holding out like this. Now, let me fast forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow is the first day that many federal employees, TSA, air traffic controllers, and other federal employees across the agencies will not get their first full paycheck. The last paycheck they got was a partial paycheck. Tomorrow, they were expected to get a full paycheck. So if you're traveling and those TSA agents aren't the most friendliest people in the world, give them a little bit of a break because they did not get a paycheck. Well, as of tomorrow, they wouldn't have. So I think this thing goes well into the November 21st deadline, which was the original deadline for the CR. It was a temporary pass there. I think it goes to that. And from that point, Terrance, I have no idea. I want to get the government open. I know that we have lawmakers that want to solve problems right now, fix this country on all four fronts, and they can't do it because the Democrats are holding the American people hostage. And as far as the No Kings rally, if they would have focused on opening up the government, their message would have been, hey, Democrats, Republicans, let's get together. Let's open up the country. That might have helped the Democrats do that. But that wasn't their message. It was simply a hate Trump rally.
Who do you think, Brian's going to blink first here? This is going to be interesting. Normally, it's Republicans that always cave, and Democrats are waiting for that day to happen. They're going to take their cue from the president. So I just wonder how this is going to work out. What's your sense on that?
I think the Democrats bend at the end of the day. I really do. I think that that's just my gut instinct. Anything, but as you travel outside D.C., people in Georgia and Alabama, all around the Deep South, a lot of people don't care about this government shutdown. It doesn't affect them. They're worried about their individual lives here. Only people within the Beltway, obviously TSA workers and federal, air traffic controllers around the country. Surely they are concerned, but I do think the Democrats cave at the end of the day, because Trump, he has the cards on this.
Yeah, Brian, if I can just add, at the moment, it doesn't affect those people that you mentioned in Alabama and Georgia and elsewhere. But eventually, I've got to think that it will affect the greater American people, no?
Yeah, no, I think the people have the power in this. So if you have a family or a loved one, a friend, neighbor, someone at church that's being affected by this government shutdown, call your representative in your state, where Democrat or Republican, call them and put pressure and say, look, open up this government for the American people. Just do it. And all of the Republicans want it, and you guys know this, is a temporary extension on an agreement that both sides has already agreed on. This was just a clean CR. Let's get it to 21st, and then let's go from there. That didn't happen. So I think they're losing the public opinion, the messaging on this. I really think they are, because look at the bizarre look. When you have a rally filled with Barney, Sesame Street characters, and you've got violent people, they're not winning the messaging on this at all. Republicans are trying to fix the problems and achieve world peace. So I think the Democrats are the ones that will cave first.
Agreed. It's all about a clean extension, and this is what we get. Okay, Brian, thanks for being here. Appreciate you.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Coming up, are you struggling with mounting debt and overdue bills? The way out could be easier than you think. We're going to show you how. When American Sunrise returns. Back in a moment.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
A Kennedy curse. That is the theme of Angel Studios' newest documentary, RFK Legacy. It comes from acclaimed filmmaker Oliver Stone, director of the hit movie JFK, and his son Sean Stone, in a profile of the Kennedy legacy that you've never seen before.
I want to ask you about your father's assassination.
Anybody who reads that report will understand that Sirhan could not have killed my father.
It's a dirty story.
It explores the Kennedy legacy as told through the eyes of Bobby Kennedy Jr., who reflects upon his life and memories, his time on Cape Cod, his uncle's assassination, his own father's assassination, and his early interest in nature and the environment.
This time you have a drug addiction. How does that play out?
I wanted to be working with nature.
He was appalled at what he saw. This is how he became the leading environmental lawyer in the United States.
There's no right to pollute. The polluter pays. My views are constantly misrepresented.
This compelling documentary profiles our current Secretary of Health and Human Services and dives deep into why Bobby Kennedy is who he is, why he cares so much about health in this country, and how his family legacy continues even after family members pass on far too soon.
I don't know if there's a curse. We do what we're supposed to do. The outcome's in God's hands.
To see RFK Legacy, go to angel.com/Rav, join the Angel Guild, and watch today.
Patriots, it's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm American Sunrise contributor Emily Finn. Let's be honest, Americans are getting crushed by debt. And when you're buried in credit card and loan debt, it's easy to put it off and think I'll deal with it later. But if you wait, you could miss out. The experts at Done With Debt discovered a new strategy that can dramatically reduce or even eliminate your debt, but it only works right now. Joining us now is TV personality Jillian Barberie, who has lived through debt stress herself. Good morning to you, Jillian. Thank you so much for waking up early and being on the show with us. So
I feel back on the morning show on Fox that we used to do here in LA. It feels kind of nice. I love it. I love the whole everything about the mornings with you guys. I want to say, mentioning debt, and earlier, you just had a gentleman speaking about TSA and them not getting paychecks. There's so much stress, right, that's going around right now with the government shutdown, and it's just probably going to get worse. So that's going to affect a lot of people. And what people fail to realize is, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck, how things can come up so quickly. For me, yes, I had a lot. I had the divorce, I had cancer, and job loss. They broke up the morning show. They broke up our band, as we say. So it happened all together, and it was really a hard time. I ended up selling my home, and I had to move, but those are very small things. I was very lucky. I got through the cancer. You don't realize how fast things can creep up on you, especially things like disease or death. You have a death in the family, and you don't have a little stockpile of money. So Done With Debt, what do they do? I always say I wish I knew about them earlier because I had so much stress and anxiety when I was going through it. What they do is they will take everything that you have without going through. They don't want to do bankruptcy. They don't want to do one big loan, umbrella loan. So what they do is very interesting. They are master negotiators. They talk to the credit card companies, and they know a lot of things that the average person doesn't know, right? Like I wouldn't know how to negotiate down a bill that they can actually sometimes get wiped out completely. It depends on where you are financially. But putting, I always say to people, this is the first thing you should do. Don't pay another bill. That's the first thing you should do before talking to someone at donewithdebt.com. What they'll do is, it's a free consultation. They'll talk you through it, and you'll have a great team of people that are there to work for you to get you back on track financially. And there's no shame. Listen, people from all walks of life. I used to work on the NFL for 10 years, and I saw players struggle. Maybe it was bad management, or they had a money guy that didn't have their best interests at heart. It happens, regardless of what your situation is. And so I think that it's good to know there are people out there that are willing to help you get through it. And donewithdebt.com, that's the place to go. Look at some of the testimonials. You'll see people, truly, it's life-changing. And I know what that's like, to have that anxiety hanging over. It's like a big black cloud. You just want it to go away. So they're the ones that are punching the numbers. They're very good at it. I'm a type B personality. I'm the artistic side. I do not like numbers. I've never been good at that stuff. And so this is what they do.
For sure. It's always good to have someone on your side, someone helping you out, so you don't feel overwhelmed. Jillian Barberie, I'm sorry to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us and waking up early to be on the morning show. Great to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up, we are headed down to Wall Street for the opening bell and insight into how to hold on to your hard-earned dollars with some common sense. We'll be back with more American Sunrise in just 2 minutes.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rev. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rev.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
I'm a J6er, and I spent 3 months in jail and about a year in prison.
I spent 4 years out of an 18-year sentence in prison.
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
In reality, J6ers are patriotic men and women, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers from all walks of life.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
And we need your help.
For just $10 or more, you're helping these patriots get mental, physical, and spiritual help.
Please scan the QR code or go to j6support.com to donate $10 or more to support these American patriots.
Thank you for being a patriot. Thank you for standing in the gap.
Welcome back, everyone. We're getting you ready for the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. It is set to ring here in just a few minutes, and we'll, of course, take you there to let you know how the markets are looking. I can tell you that it's probably a pretty good start to this work week. Here's a quick look at our big board. As you can see, pretty much green top to bottom. The only blemish right now is crude oil, but all of this can change quite literally in an instant. So the moment it does, we'll take you to New York for the morning. David, I can't speak. We'll take you to New York for the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. In the meantime, let's get you to someone who probably can put their words together in a coherent manner, and that would be David Brody. David, good morning. I can't
Well,
speak.
Good morning, but you've got the wrong guy on the screen for that, my friend. But thank you. Good to see you. Of course it's good to see you. It's been good to see you the last hour and a half. All right, it's time now for our daily dose of dollars and common sense with American Sunrise Early Edition host, the guy behind Jake's Takes Substack. Say that 5 times fast. That's Jake Novak. Hey, so Jake, the markets got a scare last week from the regional banks again, especially Zion's bank. That probably is AOC's favorite bank. Just kidding. And you say there's a lesson in this for us politically. Please explain. The Zionist bank, right? Right, Jake?
Yeah. Zion is a beautiful word, and it shouldn't be made into a negative thing, of course. But Zion's Bank, now this is really interesting. Now, we heard 2 years ago these banks, these medium-sized, a little bit smaller banks, put a big scare into the markets. They did it again on Thursday, but it looks like it was a one-day thing. Zion's Bank said they had $60 million worth of loans that they don't think they're ever going to get that money back. And this wasn't, David, this was not a case of people who took out loans and then suddenly they lost their job or they had a medical emergency. Zion's is saying, well, people looking into it are saying, no, these were people who gamed the system. They knew just how to falsify what their collateral was. They knew just how to stretch the truth in their applications. Is this ringing a bell? And that's how this bank got really nailed and almost took a lot of Wall Street down with it. So Letitia James and the people who are friendly with her and are trying to block her from being prosecuted, this is not only a serious crime, but it's a serious crime that is currently in the news right now and worrying Wall Street. You lie on these applications, you find a way to stretch the truth about your collateral, you could bring down a lot more than just yourself and the bank individually. So people need to pay attention to this. This is no funny, this is no little game. This is no small incident here. And it's certainly not a victimless crime.
No doubt. So, all right, Jake, the aluminum plant fire in New York, we've talked about that. It's hitting Ford hard, but now Ford apparently has some company here. What's going on?
Yeah, so I told you last week, 5 of Ford's models, including 2 of their most popular production's been halted. That's really bad for Ford, but I knew that there had to be other companies that are going to get hit by this, and sure enough, now Jeep is getting hit by this. It has now had to halt production on the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer. They're made in Warren, Michigan. This is going to spread to some other companies, and I got to tell you, the people who said 15 years ago that you're going too far into aluminum, that isn't safe for crashes, stick with more steel, they must be laughing right now because the car companies are getting really burned over this. Hopefully they'll recover fast. That's all I can say.
What's the stock market looking like for Ford? Has it been pretty much down, or is it all over the place, or how's it
It's been down, but Ford is not selling off hard, but it has been down since this news. And it's spread to Stellantis this morning. Stellantis shares, which is the owner of Jeep, they're down more than 1% this morning on what otherwise is an up day. When the rest of the market is up and you're down, that's a really bad sign. But President Trump is offering some relief for Detroit. He's giving them some tax credits on some of the tariff stuff that they've been getting nailed on when they need some parts from foreign countries. The car is mostly made, or truck is mostly made in the United States, but they need to bring in some parts from foreign countries. He's giving them a tax credit to help them with that. So there is some good news for Detroit this morning. But this aluminum thing is probably going to hit GM pretty soon. I can't imagine they'll be immune from it.
Well, all right. So let's talk about this jewel heist at the Louvre. There's a business lesson you're saying that we need to learn from this crazy heist at the Louvre. I assume it's about how tough the French police are, because they clearly have a reputation for being tough, Jake. LOL.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, I mean, they're not anybody really worth emulating. But no, the business lesson is this, is that, there are certain things. First of all, there's absolutely no way to put a price on what these people stole. These were jewels that were the crown jewels under Emperor Napoleon, the Empress Josephine. There's absolutely no way to put a price on it. And also, there's just no way they're going to be able to resell this as is, which is why I'm really, really nervous that they're going to melt it down. This is what some experts say. They're just going to melt down this stuff and sell it for what it goes for on the ounce, which would be it would be, even from a criminal standpoint, that's a lot of money you left off the table, but it would be terrible for history if they do this. But honestly, if you have that kind of iconic brand, or in this case, an iconic item, you're not going to be able to sell it on the black market unless there's a billionaire investor who wants to put it in his bunker somewhere, like in a James Bond movie, and is going to give you $1 billion for them. But these jewels have got to be worth in the billions. There's nothing else like them. There's nothing to match it.
I just don't get it. I mean, you're not going to go around and say, hey, by the way, I got Napoleon's jewelry here. How much? That's just not happening. All right. Wow. Jake Novak, great to have you as always. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. All
right. I got a watch in New York I want to sell you. Let's head to T. Bates for the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange, sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
We're getting ready for the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. It will start this week of trading here. I can tell you that folks are already there at the podium. The applause is underway. 3M is at the podium. The applause means that we're going to hear the opening bell here in short order, and then we'll get an idea of where the markets stand to start this week of trading. So far, so good in pre-market trading, but anything can happen. The moment that bell rings, things can change quite literally just like that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, the markets are now officially open. There's someone on the floor there at the New York Stock Exchange running to go put in the first trade of the day. So far, so good, though. As you can see, pretty much top to bottom, only a couple of blemishes. Everything else is in the green. The Dow, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ are all up at the moment, or at least in the green, and hopefully it stays that way throughout the day. We'll, of course, continue to monitor it for you. Buy gold and get free silver. That's right. For every $5,000 purchased from the Birch Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they're going to send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. I've got a piece of it here. I'll show it to you momentarily so you can get an idea of what you're investing in. Gold is up over 40%. Here you go. They pop me up. There you go. This is the gold or the silver round right here. This is the American and Gadsden flag here on the back. You probably can't tell it from here, but it is a pretty cool piece, a pretty cool little investment there. Gold is up over 40% since the beginning of this year, and the Birch Gold Group can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Plus, they'll send you the free silver that I just showed you there that honors our veterans on qualifying purchases. If you're current or if you're former military, the Birch Gold Group has a special offer just for you. They're waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, tens of thousands of satisfied customers, many of whom are viewers here at RAV, we really want to encourage you to diversify your savings into gold. Text the word America to the number 989898 for a free information kit and to claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchases before the end of this month. Again, text the word America to the number 989898. Do so today, and you can even get yourself a free silver coin like this one right here. Still to come here on American Sunrise, a historic celebration for America's armed forces. We'll show you what you missed over the weekend as the United States Marine Corps celebrated its 250th anniversary.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
RAV has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with RAV. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are RAV.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
I'm a J6er, and I spent 3 months in jail and about a year in prison.
I spent 4 years out of an 18-year sentence in prison.
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
In reality, J6ers are patriotic men and women, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers from all walks of life.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
And we need your help.
For just $10 or more, you're helping these patriots get mental, physical, and spiritual help.
Please scan the QR code or go to j6support.com to donate $10 or more to support these American patriots.
Thank you for being a patriot. Thank you for standing in the gap.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Emily Finn. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We invite you to join the conversation on Getter and Rumble. Time now to take the political pulse of America, and the beat today, pride in America's armed forces. We here at Real America's Voice were on the ground for the entire Marine 250 celebration, and here are some of the highlights. Take a look.
The Marine 250 event, Cedar Shore, it's a celebration of the United States Marines. We got it all lined up for you here today.
Marines and sailors are coming from the air, land, and sea.
This is all about commemorating the 250th birthday of our great United States Marines.
The best of the best in our country.
What a time to be alive.
Strongest and fittest service member in all branches.
What you learn in the Marine Corps is a sense of faith in America.
The Marine Corps is also a microcosm of this country. You've got black, white, man, woman.
American sea power is not just a concept, it's an unmatched capability.
Our adversaries know how strong we are.
You do not want to be on the receiving end of that bunch of whooping.
To every Marine here today, thank you for carrying a legacy 250 years strong.
Happy birthday, guns up, Semper Fi!
Hoorah, Marines! You are set apart for a distinct purpose. You kill bad guys and break things for a living. You close with and destroy the enemy for a living.
The finest fighting force anywhere in the world. Marines can kick in every theater of combat, and we do it every single day. Semper Fidelis, Marines. Happy 250th birthday.
For discussion, let's bring back David Brody and Terrance Bates. Terrance, what do you think about what the vice president had to say at this event? I mean, I think that this was a great way for us to honor our Marines.
No, absolutely. I sat through the vice president's comments as well as the Secretary of War's comments. I also watched kind of the reenactment, if you will, as the Marines took the beach and kind of cleared the area. My big takeaway for this, David, was really that this was the best recruiting tool ever. Any kid that was sitting there watching this and kind of watching how cool all of this was, it was kind of a real life reenactment of what we all did as kids, as boys. Maybe even some girls. This was probably one of the greatest recruitment tools available to the administration to get young people excited about serving in the Marines or the armed forces in general. And what a great way to honor the Marines and show that patriotism.
Yeah, of course, I agree with all that. Of course, Gavin Newsom has to, be the troller guy out there, the creeper troller guy who basically said, it's really not nice to fire live rounds over a highway. It's dangerous. He's talking about I-5 there in California, Interstate 5. And the White House is saying, give me a break. Everything was fine. There was no danger to anybody. But, it's just, once again, it goes to a tone-deaf, view from the Democrats. There's this rah-rah, let's all get behind the military, the Marines in this case. And, we got the testosterone flowing. And it's a course correction, let's be honest, from what we saw during the Biden administration and the Obama administration. And it was a wonderful thing to see. And yet all Gavin Newsom can complain about is live rounds over I-5. I mean, these people, I'm just so done with them. And you know what? Here's the good news. A lot of the American people are done with them as well, except for people with blue hair at a No Kings rally. Emily.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that there, David. Great discussion. And it is a great weekend to celebrate this milestone with the Marine Corps. Let's bring the conversation back here. Sorry, you guys, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with our teleprompter here.
I think we've got Joe DeGenova. Excuse me, Emily. I think I can't even say his name anymore. Joe DeGenova is joining us now.
There we go. We got there.
Take it away.
Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Joe, we want to talk to you about John Bolton.
First of all, for messing up your name. I do know it's Joe DeGenova. I just couldn't get it out. Good to see you.
Doesn't matter. I'm here. That's all that matters.
And the most important thing is if you get out the analysis on this, which is about John Bolton, obviously charges against him, the former national security advisor to President Trump. He was, of course, as you know, Joe, but just to remind everybody, Bolton hit with a litany of charges. It included unlawful transmission of national defense information. He's now pleading not guilty to all 18 counts. Talk to us about it. Where do you how do you feel that the charges will hold up or not hold up?
Well, these are very serious charges.
and they appear to be, from the text of the indictment, very, very well-based and factually based. He's charged with transmission of national defense information, which is a violation of the Espionage Act, and there are numerous instances, at least 18, in which he did this. Now, the worst part is that he didn't transmit them to somebody who had a clearance to receive them. He transmitted them to his wife and daughter. Now, he claims these were merely diary entries. And the reason he's doing that is that diaries enjoy a protection under Supreme Court rulings for privacy. But these weren't diaries. These were draft memos of things that were happening in real time that he was participating in as a national security advisor. And they were being transmitted to people who did not have a clearance to receive them. Now, I'm sure he's going to put up all sorts of defenses about why he did this and how it was okay and that this really wasn't classified information. But he'll have to do that through an affirmative defense, not through cross-examination. So it'll be very interesting to see if he takes the witness stand. I think he may very well take the witness stand because he doesn't have a criminal record, which is one of the reasons that most people don't take the witness stand. And I think he's a very smart guy. And and one of the things that's most interesting about John, I've known John for 30 years, is that he's very smart and that he thinks that he's very smart and that he thinks that he's smarter than anybody else in the room, including the President of the United States. So it'll be interesting to see. It's a very sound indictment. He'll be tried in Maryland, which is a very blue state. He'll have a very blue jury pool, so he will have that advantage, and we'll see what happens.
You know, the Trump administration is really starting to slowly but surely crack down on people who may have made missteps and overstepped their bounds. That, of course, brings me to Jack Smith. He has now been formally referred to the Department of Justice's Office of Professional Responsibility for potential misconduct and disbarment. What can you tell us about that particular case?
Well, the Office of Professional Responsibility has been for years a cover-up operation inside the department where referrals were made about prosecutors, and they basically went there to die. It's like an elephant burial ground. It was particularly corrupt during the Biden administration because legitimate complaints against prosecutors were buried faster than any place else. I don't know who's running the Office of Professional Responsibility at Main Justice now, but they'll have an opportunity to take a look at what Jack Smith did. Some of the most egregious, unethical, outrageous conduct by a prosecutor in the history of the Department of Justice. This should be an easy call for OPR. We'll see how they handle it. It'll be interesting. I think there's a lot to say about what Jack Smith did, and in my opinion, some of what he did may have crossed the line into a territory of illegality. We'll see.
Joe, President Trump's trade tariffs are hitting a legal challenge now, this time from a group known as the Liberty Justice Center. They're saying the president's tariffs violate the Constitution. What's your take on this?
Well, there's very little law on this at the Supreme Court level, and I think that the president has a pretty good shot, at least 50-50, of winning his cases in the Supreme Court. Let's remember why the president is doing this. He's not doing this to make money, although part of the result of this is that the United States is making billions of dollars from the tariffs, but he's doing it to upend anti-U.S., anti-national security activities by the people who have imposed tariffs on us. So he has imposed reciprocal tariffs under certain circumstances and independent tariffs under other circumstances. Which of those tariffs will survive, I think, is a pretty interesting legal question. The courts thus far have ruled that the president's tariffs are illegal. But some of the judges who have been in those cases have dissented, and they've said that the president has this inherent power and that he even has it under the statutes that he's citing, the International Economic Emergencies Acts and other acts. My view is that ultimately the president will win in the Supreme Court, and the court will rule that he has vast power under his role as commander-in-chief and as the protector of national defense, and that vast power to protect the United States includes the imposition of tariffs when he deems it appropriate. I think he'll win. It may not be by much. It might be 5-4, but I think he's going to win.
Joe, one other legal question for you on the National Guard. Obviously, that's being challenged in the courts as it relates to the Posse Comitatus Act. But then the Insurrection Act, if he ever invokes that, I'm assuming there's an itching for a fight with the Trump legal team wants that fight potentially because the Supreme Court really hasn't weighed in much on that, if at all. Help me out if I'm wrong on that, but it seems like those are some legal fights ahead.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that. There are already some circuit court rulings saying that he can bring the troops to the state, but he cannot deploy them. Well, bringing them to the state doesn't serve any useful purpose under Article 2 if you can't deploy them. These courts are all wrong. The president has the authority to deploy the National Guard to protect federal employees, federal facilities, federal programs, and to allow for the faithful execution of federal law. That's all the president is doing here. He's not asking them to engage in local law enforcement. The opposition from Pritzker and Newsom is purposely confusing. They want to make it look like they're against the Guard being there for law enforcement. The Guard is there to protect ICE, other federal agents, federal buildings, federal facilities, and to allow for the execution of federal law. The president ultimately will win in the Supreme Court on this issue. Whether he uses the Insurrection Act or something else, he's going to win.
Yeah, it seems clear cut to me. I mean, as long as they're not going around arresting, Americans on the streets in terms of the National Guard, that should be the delineation point. Joe DeGenova, great to have you with us today.
Sure.
Thanks, Joe.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. Coming up, Senator Cory Booker. Is he still speaking on the Senate floor? I don't really care. He joined the radical left's No King's Day demonstrations over the weekend. I know you can't wait to hear what he had to say, but we're going to dig into that and so much more because we've got to point out some of what he's talking about. If you know what I'm saying, we're back in a moment.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rev. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rev.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
I'm a J6er, and I spent 3 months in jail and about a year in prison.
I spent 4 years out of an 18-year sentence in prison.
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
In reality, J6ers are patriotic men and women, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers from all walks of life.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
And we need your help.
For just $10 or more, you're helping these patriots get mental, physical, and spiritual help.
Please scan the QR code or go to j6support.com to donate $10 or more to support these American patriots.
Thank you for being a patriot. Thank you for standing in the gap. Let's spill some tea.
All right, let's spill some tea fueled by Artillery Tea Company, the only America First veteran-owned tea brand. Their mission is to maximize flavor with whole leaf blends and chemical-free tea bags. No junk, just real tea. And here's the tactical advantage. Each bag brews twice. Just go to artillerytco.com and use the code LIBERTY for 20% off your first order. Again, that's artillerytco.com. Premium tea, mission-driven, brewed for the brave. It is time now to spill some tea, and in the cup today, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. Booker posted this video of himself over the weekend, leading a group of No Kings protesters in a chant of "This is what democracy looks like." Behind him, people dressed as dinosaurs, an eagle, even a frog, waving signs and shouting along. Here's what that scene looked like.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
The demonstrations were part of a coordinated movement called No Kings that popped up in cities across the country over the weekend. And it didn't stop there. Democrats like Chuck Schumer and Adam Schiff praised the demonstrations online, while Never-Trumper George Conway showed up in D.C. wearing a shirt that said, "I am Antifa." Wow. So while most Americans are worried about inflation, crime, and the border, prominent Democrats are marching with people dressed as cartoon characters, calling it democracy. Let's bring back David Brody and Terrance Bates to discuss. Terrance, your thoughts on these No Kings protests? David seems to think that I was there. I don't know.
So I will say this, and David kind of echoed this earlier. It is democracy. Like, whether we agree with their message or how they go about it, they have the right to protest peacefully, which I think is the critical part of that, and they carried out that right, and I think that is what democracy looks like. Now, I would hope that democracy plays out with people who have a legitimate beef or have a legitimate message. I'm not so sure that can be argued about these No Kings protests. But, David, I think there is something to be said about the right to protest peacefully. Again, I think that's critical, and I think that's what we witnessed over the weekend.
No, I love it. If people want to they have the right to totally embarrass themselves and say whatever they want. I'm all for that. Why not? So a couple of things. Cory Booker, I mean, if you're going to do a chant, can you get a few more people? I mean, it looked like he was there with, like, I don't know, maybe some family members, and they came from like a diner in Newark over the bridge into the city. So that was kind of weird. By the way, nice little democracy lesson this over the weekend as I took my 6-year-old and 3-year-old granddaughters to Aladdin. Like I said earlier in the show, that was a 2 p.m. showing of Aladdin. Oh, great. The No Kings rally was right there in Times Square at 2 p.m. My bad. Bad grandfather move to plan the Aladdin, matinee right when the No Kings protest was going. I got a question from my granddaughter. What are they saying? She says she liked it. She liked the part where they said hi ho, and then she couldn't hear anything else after. Something's got to go. Anyhow, so we had a little conversation, but there it is. MAGA equals treason. It's just so funny. They really should call it the pot calling the kettle black rally, because the truth of the matter is these folks should be protesting Biden and what they did to MAGA. Instead, of course, they won't do that. They're going to have their pumpkin signs and all of that type of stuff. And by the way, one last note, if Donald Trump was a king, why was this rally allowed to go on in the first place? If he was a king, he would have shut it down. Anybody think about that?
And I'll add to this. I would rather Senator Booker be in Washington working to actually reopen the government, rallying some of his colleagues to reopen the government so they can start negotiating fully funding the government, as opposed to participating in this sort of rally. Again, he has the right. No argument there for me on that part, but it seems to me that the time could have been better used, particularly if you're saying this is democracy, to really enact democracy and to do so in a working way that moves the country forward and hopefully gets the government reopened. But that's a nuance that I'm sure nobody on the left really wants to discuss.
Yeah, great points. I think that it's good that this was actually peaceful, mostly peaceful. It's not like mostly peaceful with burning buildings, in the background. I think it's good that they were able to keep it nonviolent. All right, still to come on American Sunrise, some great news to start your day that will leave you with a smile. Once a stray in moments, meet a rescue dog who has now become a hero. That story is next when American Sunrise returns. We'll be back in just 2 minutes.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. What happens when imagination becomes reality? That is the theme of Angel Studios' new release, Sketch.
Amber, you're incredibly creative. Here's the thing. Life is all about balancing the good and the bad. If you don't carry the good with you too, then it's just going to make the bad stronger.
Balancing the good with the bad. It's something we all have to do. The star of Sketch, actor Tony Hale, known for his roles in Veep and Arrested Development, plays a father who realizes his daughter likes to draw, but young Amber draws some imaginative yet rather dark sketches.
You know, feelings aren't bad. When you get angry, sad, or scared, put it in here, where it can't hurt anyone.
Yeah, we describe it like Jurassic Park meets Inside Out. And the simple story is not simple, but the story is my wife passes away, obviously my daughter's mother, and my daughter is dealing with grief. And she's drawing these just atrocious pictures. And Seth can explain a little bit of how that kind of idea came about, and then they come to life. And it's just really, it's a really fine line. What Seth does so beautifully is obviously the stakes could not be higher with loss, but just the way the comedy is woven throughout and how the tension is kind of balanced, and you take air out of the balloon in the little humorous ways. And it's just a really beautiful orchestration that he has done with it.
When Amber and her brother go into the woods, they drop her sketchbook in a pond, and it seems that some of those drawings come to life. The life.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Emily Finn. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's time now for the Sunny Side Up and In the Pan today. A hero dog in Florida is being praised around the world for saving the life of his elderly owner after she collapsed during a late-night walk. Eeyore, a rescue dog who survived a near-fatal car accident years ago, proved that second chances matter when he led a sheriff's deputy straight to his 86-year-old owner who had suffered a medical emergency. The county sheriff's office released body camera footage showing Eeyore trotting through the dark to guide the deputy to the woman's side. Let's take a look at that.
She's laying here on the sidewalk, alert and conscious, but she may have injured herself.
Where were you when found you?
I was in front of that house right there. And then the dog ran up to me. I was right out here.
And the dog brought you?
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't leave. He kept coming back to me.
Mm-hmm. He ran up to my car and I said, "Bring me to your mommy," and he ran back here.
He came up to your car?
Mm-hmm. Good boy.
Sweetheart.
Good boy. Very good boy.
Wow, what a remarkable story. Paramedics arrived soon after, and thanks to Eeyore, she is expected to make a full recovery. It's a heartwarming reminder that sometimes the ones we rescue end up rescuing us. Wow, that was a very smart dog to be able to, kind of communicate the emergency of the situation.
No, absolutely. And what a cool story, because, sometimes in a situation like this, a dog, kind of this stray dog runs up to you as a police officer or someone, and you just kind of disregard it and think, oh, okay, I'm petting the dog and all right, get out of here. Fortunately, the officer, was aware enough to go ahead and follow the dog and be able to, save the day, if you will, David.
I love dogs. I absolutely love dogs. You think a cat's going to do that? Sorry, I don't mean to diss cats. But come on, seriously, a cat. When do you ever hear a cat let a police officer? No, you're not hearing that. Dogs are phenomenal. This is like a modern day version of Lassie, which is great. And by the way, the fact that I even said Lassie just dated myself about 50 years. So it just shows you how old I am. But this is great stuff.
Yeah, we should have saved this for a Puppy Friday. I know Gina would have